then let's pay attention and talk about it and figure out how we can make it mean something, right? To what we were saying, what I said today is like, I'm sure his family, the CEO's family, would appreciate some meaning coming out of the tragedy, right? Like, I don't even think they would be out of that opinion.
Yeah, that's perhaps true. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
But the problem is if we don't solve the systemic issue, this goes to criminal justice reform as well. Like I don't
Mm-hmm.
believe in this mass incarceration policy. I believe that there's certain. I mean, I think there is an explanation for most everything. Like I don't believe in premeditated things along those lines, but there's so many scenarios where it would justify people who don't have a criminal background, people who don't have a history of harming others or harming themselves. Our society doesn't want to address the systemic issues of poverty, for example. Our society doesn't want to address the systemic issues of wealth inequality. So instead, it's just easier to incarcerate.
Sure.
So if we truly want to change our society, then we need to change it. But the problem is, in capitalism, the money is supposed to circulate, and these criminals won't allow it to circulate.
Yeah.
So my push again is for a revolution, right? There are examples in history where the revolution was peaceful, and sometimes it takes a match to be lit for it to happen. But I want change. I want systemic change. That's what all of us have wanted. And the weird part about this, I don't know if you want to call it weird, but um, Trump won the election on a couple of basic promises that he made to his followers. Immigration, mass deportation, because he fired them up over an issue that was a non-issue.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Manufactured. Absolutely.
Exactly, manufactured fear, scapegoating, fear mongering, and lowering your prices. He is not going to lower your prices. In fact, he's gone on the record recently saying, "Yeah, it's going to be really hard if I can do anything about it. I don't know, it's hard. Once the prices are up, they can't go down." So there's no point in our history so that's happened. So he ran on those two messages. He is now stocked again and opposition to the liberal elites in the deep state. Meanwhile, he's stocking his cabinet, literally stocking it, with a collective group of cabinet appointees that are worth close to $200 billion. That does not include Elon Musk, who's the richest man in the world. So
Right.
billionaires in government setting policy to benefit billionaires. And you seem to think that that is the way to run America. So again, MAGA, my plea, my plea to you is to really, really take a step back and listen to what we've been telling you for a very long time. They do not give a shit about you. They do not care. And this should be the common enemy. So there you go.
What? Yes. I mean, yes, all that. No notes. Yeah.
No, yeah. All right, let's just jump in. We'll have some conversations. The box is open. Want to get everybody's thoughts on this tonight. JR Smooth, how are you tonight?
Good and yourself?
Doing fine, thank you. What's on your mind?
Well, I had an idea. I don't know if it will work necessarily. You know how they want to give the rich tax cuts and all that stuff. What if they set out a limit to where the billionaires had to pay a certain amount of money to the into the health insurance as their form of tax cuts for the year? They would have to meet a certain criteria to pay for a year
Uh,
for tax cuts, and considering them as their tax cuts.
we have to get legislation though. So I hear what you're saying. I mean, I think that's what we're talking about. How about instead of giving them tax cuts at all, we raise their taxes
You know what I'm
and
saying?
use tax increases from them specifically to help fund things like universal health care.
Right. I just had a thought about that. I was saying, like, if they did it like that, would that benefit more because more money would go into that system?
But why do we want to benefit them anymore?
No, not benefit them, benefit us. Benefit like
Right. So
you.
let's raise their taxes and
Mhm.
use the tax increase to help fund things like universal health
Yeah, I
care,
mean, that's
public
the way it used
education.
to be, right? Facts. You remember
Exactly.
back in the day when, we were thriving as a society before Reagan?
Correct.
Like that was a thing.
That was a thing. That was a real thing. That was real. We had corporate tax rates in the 50 percentile. The top marginalized rate was 90% for earners making, so marginalized would mean anything over a certain amount, you get taxed at the higher rate. I think back then it was like $400,000, and now that in today's math, that would be like $3 million. So people making more than that annually start paying a higher number. There's systemic changes that need to be made, but a lot of it has to do with money.
Yeah, the
I'm just tired.
concentration.
I'm tired of the biggest recipients of welfare in our country are billionaires and corporations.
That was timely. Yeah, that was
Cha-ching.
perfect timing.
Yeah.
Cha-ching. Yeah.
Oh, that's just what I had a thought about. I just
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
like,
I mean, there's
Yeah.
plenty of money.
I
There's
hear you.
plenty of money to pay for healthcare. Like, there's a way we can fund it that's beneficial to all. It's the whole ideology of people like we've had in our lives this week of I don't want to pay for other people. You already are my person. You already
Exactly.
are. Because there's
Exactly.
uninsured people in this country, and that's why our rates are so high, because we are paying for everybody. We're just letting people, privatization creates other people benefiting off off that situation. And that's the thing that's not okay.
That's correct. Thanks for jumping in tonight, JR. Appreciate you,
no
friend.
problem, man. You take
Yeah,
it
like,
easy. All right.
thanks, JR. Yep. Like making a profit over people's health is very unaligned. Like that's not something that makes sense.
Exactly. We just classed the place up a bit. Hey, Taryn. How are you?
Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing okay. Finally getting some time off. We had the annual enrollment period just in for Medicare, which is,
Yeah.
actually on everybody's mind right now. It's I just want to share my story with having to be disciplined, quote unquote, because I misunderstood something. I was signing up somebody, and I told them, and this is what I thought at the time, was that if there was a medication that was not covered on the insurance, then the doctor can write a formulary exception, which he can't, so that he can try to get it covered by the insurance company. What I thought was that if the doctor said it was so, it just happened. No, Taryn. The doctor can request that, but it's up to the insurance companies, and this is the crux of it. We have the tail wagging the dog. These doctors need to be making these decisions that these health insurance boards are making, and now probably AI is starting to make, in a very favorable way. And people have to wait months to go through these processes. Oh, that prescription doesn't work. Okay, that prescription doesn't work, and they got to go through what they call a step therapy. This prescription doesn't work. Let's try that one. Then finally getting the one that they want. Well, people have died waiting for that, and in that process for these companies to say that this was an innocent man. Yes, he was an innocent man. Do I think that what this young man did was justified? No, because I don't believe in the taking of lives, but I understand the motive. I understand where he's coming from. I just want to say, hey, I've been here all day, kind of been off and talking to these guys. It really is. We're in a bad way, man. These young men, they don't know what they voted for. They're telling us because we're telling them, hey, here's what this means, and they're like, and but they'll come up with full chest, like, hey, I know all these facts, bro. I'm here to step to you, and then I really am. I have anxiety. I'm seeing my therapist more because I'm very worried about where we're going to go with this country. I'm 52. I'm not getting younger. I don't want AI and a robot to be my caregiver. But maybe that'd be a better choice than what we got going on with these humans today.
Yeah.
So I'm just really disheartened. I love you guys. I'll be listening in, and they don't want me keeping up here too long. I hope we get some good people who actually... I did run into 3 or 4 people who actually were listening and having a dialogue. It's rare bird.
I think we can find them. I think they're
I'm
out
glad
there.
you're
I
seeing
really
your
think.
therapist, Taryn. That's good by you.
Yeah, I have
Thanks
to.
for being here, Taryn. I appreciate
You know what? I'll be listening in. I love listening to you guys.
Thank you, brother.
Good
See
to
you
see
later.
you.
I think, he brings up a good point. And this is kind of the whole crux of this, and this is why I've been trying to land the plane on this topic all week, is that we're going to talk to 100 people or however many people we speak to tonight, and I guarantee you every one of them will either have a personal healthcare experience or someone close to them has. So it touches everybody. Exactly. So so have I. So again, the math is the math is staggering. In case you don't know, I've gone through this. I've got it memorized now. By 2027, we as a nation will spend $6 trillion with a T on healthcare. It amounts to I'm just under 18% of our entire GDP. So $1 out of every six spent in our nation goes directly towards healthcare. We are
Mhm.
number one in cost and 42nd in outcome. Again, number one in cost, 42nd in outcome. Average American citizen in our nation pays $14,000 annually in healthcare costs. Okay, that's the average. So we have to stop saying that we can't afford it. We
Yeah,
have
and
to stop saying that.
it's got to not just be about the bottom dollar, right? Because there's another
Exactly.
aspect of this that I don't think people think about as much. When they think of healthcare, they think when you go to the doctor, the hospital, whatever. That also includes mental health care. And
Uh-huh.
if I can just get on my soapbox for a minute about that, is
Please do.
imagine a world where we could just go see a therapist when we needed to and didn't have to worry about could we pay for it? Did our insurance cover that particular thing? Because they don't cover it the same way they do medical, which they, why not? I don't know. Like dental and eyes, like why are my teeth and my eyeballs and my brain, my mental health so different than everything else? It makes no sense. And we've got people in my field where like it's not an uncommon thing for a client to say, I lost my job, I can't come see you anymore because I can't afford the $220 that the session, like I can't afford to self pay, even though we do sliding fee scale, like they can't afford even that because life, here we are, right? Like you literally are impacting people's lives, not just physically, but people's ability, much of the depression, anxiety that ever you just heard Taryn say, I'm going to see my therapist. Like, yay, great. Imagine a world where we could just all do that, normalize that. Maybe Luigi should have got some therapy. Like, I don't even know, right? Not even
Right.
floating that anything about his mental health or whatever, but I'm just saying, like, there are so many aspects of this that I think people need to think more about is if we're doing universal health care, we don't have those issues. And we see it in other countries. To Obi's point the other day, like we've seen countries that are similar to ours do this very effectively. So what is it about our American exceptionalism that we need to get over to understand that, yeah, there's a way we can do this and we all need to figure it out.
I think
Yeah, mental health issues turn into physical health issues. Yes, they do.
yeah, I mean, I think again that's the missing piece that people don't understand. You know, in your industry, of course, mental health is stigmatized, right? And part of the reason is so many people either don't have access to it or it becomes stigmatized. A combination of the two, all kinds of other factors. So what we're talking about. So I was asked this question earlier this week, and I think Erica responded to it about how why is it that other countries have it? Other countries decided that they were going to invest in their people.
Yes.
They made the decision to say we are going to ensure access to health care for our citizens because we believe that access to health care is a human right. And we've just not, because of the billionaire class, a lot of this can go directly to Reagan. I'll read something for you guys a little bit later. A lot of this can point to the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. And this is the frustration for those of us on the left who believe in these kinds of things. And we've been saying, look, we want universal health care. Stop thinking we can't afford it. We can. The reason you think we can't is because the billionaire class who's making money off of your back is telling you. So we think about Trump's tariffs, for example. So the idea is to punish American citizens to buy products from Mexico. Like,
Yeah.
is to, I mean, by and large, they're inflationary. Again, this is the distraction, right? So when asked in this time, you have to find this Time Magazine interview. It's in our Discord. People you can find it there. But um, one of the questions that was asked was like, so you made a commitment on the campaign trail that you're going to lower prices. His response was, it's really hard. Once they go
Really
up,
hard.
they don't come down.
Imagine
So
if he would have said that before the election.
yeah, so I guess
Imagine.
the reason I share that is because if you voted for him because of that, and because there's no time in our history when prices come down,
Yeah,
that's
it's
just
just
doesn't
not a
happen. We
thing.
don't want
Right.
deflation. We've always had inflation. In fact, inflation rate was higher under Trump than it was under Obama, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Its prices have always gone up, and you want to eliminate a large chunk of the workforce through mass deportation. Again, he addresses that very vaguely in his Time Magazine interview.
Which is
then you're
inflationary.
right, which is inflationary because we already don't have the labor force. There's a great story, and I tried to find it before we went live tonight. I just couldn't find it, of a South Dakota dairy farmer who lives about 10 miles away from South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem. Kristi Noem is now the director of Homeland Security. She's DHS. She's a cabinet position, and he's a hardcore Trump voter. Voted for him 3 times. All right, voted for Kristi Noem. Is a Republican, true and true. He was interviewed and was asked about the tariffs and asked about deportation, and he was like, "Wait, what?" He said, "Yeah." The interviewer's like, "Yeah. So if the deportation plan goes into workforce, how many undocumented migrants do you have?" He's like, "It's 80% of my staff." And then
Oops.
the guy's like, "Wait a second. So if that plan goes through, I'm out of business." So
Mm-hmm.
this is an example. Like
This,
this is
sir,
another
is what we call the
example.
find out season.
Right. It's like it's another example. Like if you're and again, policies written by billionaires to benefit billionaires. There's no benefit for the middle class. The extenuation of the Trump tax cuts, it's not just a continuation. He's gone on the record saying he wants to lower the corporate tax rate to 15%. Elon Musk has got tens of billions of dollars of government contracts, and he's the person who's responsible to find waste in government. That is the epitome of a conflict of interest.
I'm sure he will, except for in his contracts. I'm sure. Yeah. Like that should concern people, right? Like that seems a little suspect.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we're talking about. So again, the common goal should be the billionaire class. Hi, Robert. How are you tonight?
Pretty good.
Good. What's on your mind?
I'm really good.
Good. What's on your mind? Robert, are you there? You keep teacupping out, Robert. Robert going once. Robert
They
going
were
twice. Okay.
praising.
Oh,
They were praising. They were praising the billionaire. Like they were for like billionaires unaliving people through
What?
corporate unalivements. That just doesn't make sense with me. It doesn't
What
make
doesn't
sense
make
at
sense,
all.
Robert?
Like how can people be for that and
For
not bat
what,
an
Robert?
eye?
For what, Robert?
Or like a person like for example Brian Thompson, he was unaliving people through corporate unalignment. He had this AI machine, or he was involved in it, and this AI machine rejected a lot of people's coverage
Yeah,
on
it's not
like
just
medical
United though.
insurance.
That's not uncommon in lots of industries where there's an automated response system. So
Yeah,
yeah,
was it
yeah,
AI or no?
automated. I mean, you can call it AI. It's automated.
Okay,
Yeah,
it
it's
sounds
not
like
just
you're in
but why
agreement
do you,
automated.
of our conversation. Sounds like you're in agreement, right? Like I'm,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, sorry, I was just a little baffled by earlier.
About what specifically were you baffled by?
Because people were like sympathizing with Brian Thompson. Like,
Not here.
why?
I'm not.
Yeah, that well, that's good though, because at least you're not, I don't know, brainwashed.
I'd like to think I'm
It
not.
it's only billionaires. It's only rich people that care about him, mostly.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's non-billionaires that care. I mean, we've seen the rhetoric coming from the right or people trying to spin it, saying that they don't support vigilante justice. Then when asked about Kyle Rittenhouse or others, are like, well, that's different. Yeah, of course it is. Of course it's different. Yeah.
That's right. I just looked back on it and I'm like, wow. Yeah, they really
Yeah,
praise Kyle Rittenhouse.
they sure
Yeah.
do. They sure do. Thanks for being here tonight, Robert. I appreciate you. You have a good evening.
Yeah.
Thanks, Robert. Yeah, I mean, I get the empathy for Brian Thompson. I mean, he's a human being, right? Like if we really boil it down, I mean, I think even you have empathy for a human being losing their life. And then I'll get
100%.
past that real quick. And there's more, like, it's a nuanced, complex conversation with a whole lot of feelings. And I think that's why people are having such a hard time about it, because it's not a binary thing. There's not a right or wrong here. It's a whole clusterfuck, and we just need to talk about it.
That's right. Good evening, Colleen. How are you tonight?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Fine, thank you. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I actually just did a live last night with Luigi Mangione as the topic, asking, people how they felt. And it was very, very interesting. Uh, there was a lot of people in the comments that doing free Luigi, there was so much trying to explain to people that like someone directly asked me like, well, would you go do that? And I was like, no, I personally, that's not that's not me. I wouldn't go do what Luigi did, but you could argue that the CEO of UH was a mass unaliver, like the last person said, because of the denials. And, we're talking about like probably millions of people that either suffered or were unalive because of their policies, and trying to explain to people that this feeling, this is like a match point, kind of like a like Luigi kind of lit this like match that has sparked things.
Let me narrow this down for you, Colleen. Do you believe that what he did was justified?
um I do.
So let's think about that for a second, though, because if it's and again, just for the purpose of this argument, justification would mean in this case would mean that you support vigilante justice.
Yeah, I know. That's why it is so complicated, because I do not support vigilante justice, and so it's hard to like I feel like it's almost hard to look at this in binary terms,
Yeah, well,
because
that's why the word justified. That's the part that I think we're all struggling with. Understand why he did it? Absolutely. Have no sympathy that it happened? None whatsoever. But justification, and the reason I say it so starkly like that, because if we now say that it's justified for these kinds of things and with an intent to hope to change society, and society doesn't change, then what other options do we have? Because
but
the one thing that we've not done as a nation when it comes to things like this is unite around the cause, meaning that the we the people, in the Constitution, the we the people unifying to understand that it is the billionaire class, it is corporate greed, it is oligarchs that are doing this to us. Again, if we start justifying vigilante justice and nothing changes, then what's left?
I mean, I think that's a really good point, but I would also say that at this point, I mean, even Martin Luther King Jr. changed his stance on nonviolence towards the end. I mean, that's not something that is widely um, spoken about or taught. He didn't, he wasn't like outright advocating for violence, but he started, writing about how writing is the language of the people who have been wronged, like things like that. He started changing his tune about nonviolence, and I'm not advocating like it's that's why it's so difficult to talk
It
about this,
is.
because it's like there
It is.
what I am hoping is that something like this turns in is a spark point to do something like what they did in France, to rise up and bring people together.
Agreed.
And I do
And I
think it
agree.
has brought people together
Mm.
from groups that wouldn't have otherwise um, maybe had the same thoughts about a subject. I
Yeah,
think it's bridged.
the problem though is if we start accepting vigilante justice, then we have to accept what Kyle Rittenhouse did.
Well, I
So I
think
think
that I think that Luigi should go to should have a trial, and I think that
Of
he
course.
should absolutely have to face, a trial and a jury, and I think that that is how our system works, and that's what needs to happen.
Yep.
Um, and so, I'm 100% for that. I think it's going to be very difficult to find a jury that is completely impartial. But I'm 100% with you. Like, if someone does something like that, they have to face the consequences of our laws.
Yeah.
But when I mean, in this case, we have to learn more about him. We know a lot, but we don't know everything. But some at some point, people are with the misery and the
I get it.
billionaires,
I get it.
just completely taking over
Yeah.
everything,
The problem though, see the
making
thing is, Colleen, the thing is that billionaires grow on trees in our current system of capitalism because there
yeah,
is no guardrails.
exactly,
There are none. So
yeah,
that's why we need we need a if this is the unifying moment, we can use Alexei Navalny again, a guy who for the most part was a figurehead for a movement that was peaceful by and large.
yeah,
He got a little something in his tea, went to Germany to recover. He went back to Russia on his own volition, knowing he was going
yeah,
to lose his life.
yeah, and
Nelson
knowing he was
Mandela,
going to go to prison,
knowing he was going to end up in jail for 40 years. So
yeah,
those are examples of two prominent figures who will be remembered throughout history, who led, for the most part, peaceful opposition. I'm a pacifist by and large. I know violence is necessary sometimes, but again, this is what I hold on to. If violence doesn't work in this case and we get no change, then we've got nothing left because that's the end. That's the end.
yeah.
You pull the trigger, you light
I'm
the match. That's it. There's nothing left.
Yeah, I mean, we may as well just be, well, Venezuela or Hungary at that point. Like, let's just.
I'm a
Thanks for jumping in
pacifist as
tonight,
well.
Colleen.
Like,
We appreciate you. Well, we have other people requesting Colleen, but thanks for jumping
oh
in
yeah,
tonight. I
go
appreciate
for
you.
it. Okay.
See you later.
Thank you.
That's the hard part. This is where we're
Mhm.
going to struggle. This
Like,
is
who
where we
are
are.
we as a country? I think I don't know. Have we
Yeah.
crossed the Rubicon too damn far at this point? I don't know.
So, Phoenix, could you request, because you say Kyle and Luigi aren't the same? No, I know that the circumstances are completely different, but we're talking about vigilante justice. So, hi, Gibby. How are you? Or Glibby.
I'm good, thank you.
What's on your mind?
Oh, I was just well, what's on my mind actually is this woman in Florida who ended up arrested and had $100,000 bond. But we're talking about vigilante justice. So I was going to share just a kind of odd little fact that I was looking at Luigi's Goodreads list, and one of the authors that he has on his list is Kim Stanley Robinson. I don't know if you're familiar with him at all.
No.
Okay. He's a great science fiction author, and he wrote a book called Ministry for the Future. And it is a book that is about global warming or climate change. And there is a character who goes through a very traumatic global warming event in India at the very beginning that kills an entire village. He somehow survives, but it traumatizes him, and he basically turns into a vigilante and starts going through the rest of the book killing billionaires.
Unaliving. Let's be careful with our words, please.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Vigilanteing billionaires. And I always found that character extremely fascinating when I read that book, because the spin that the author put on that character was that it was part of an overall, not plan in any way, but it was an overall course of events that turned things around in some way for humans. And so when I saw that book on Luigi's Goodreads list,
By the way, guys, we are streaming on YouTube. In case you don't know, you can follow me here on YouTube, and you can also follow me there on Blue Sky. Sorry, Gilby. Just want to
no,
make that
no,
clear.
not at all. So when I saw that book on Luigi's Goodreads list, it just popped into my head that he might have been possibly inspired in some way by those types of vigilante stories. but in any event, I highly recommend Kim Stanley Robinson as an author, and Ministry for the Future is a wonderful book. And if you want to, you know,
He did the
read
Mars
about,
trilogy, I think. I feel like that's how
yes,
I
he
know.
did
Yeah.
Red Mars, Blue Mars, Green Mars. He
Yeah,
did
yeah,
that
yeah.
one as well, and he did Years of Rice and Salt, which is a fantastic alternate history book as well.
Thank you for jumping in tonight, Libby.
Oh,
Appreciate you.
sure, thanks.
Appreciate that. See you later. Um, yeah, mm, I'm probably going to go back and forth on this all evening, but that's part of why we have these conversations.
Yeah, it's a nuanced thing.
It
It's a
is.
struggle.
Hi, Lilith. How are you tonight?
I'm doing okay. Well, actually, no, since that's a fair question, I'm not going to answer it politely. I'm stressed with everything going on. I'm Canadian, and I've been following all of this for a while, and it's scary. What's going on is honestly, from my perspective, very scary. Um, and I don't understand how so many Americans don't see what's happening or what the world is watching happen. I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, that's the ultimate exercise, right? The weird part for those of us who've been paying attention to this for a very long time, not just on
Mhm.
TikTok, not just on election season, but I've been watching this shit my whole life. It's the loyalty from a particular belief set that billionaires are looking out for them.
Mhm.
It's crazy that this is how powerful right wing messaging has been. This is how powerful. Again, we always talk about the distraction is the point. Let's
I know.
distract our base by let's give them to somebody to hate. Let's tell them to hate brown people. Let's
Mhm.
tell them to hate members of the LGBTQI community, in particular the trans community. Let's tell them to hate the poor. Let's tell them to hate teachers. Let's tell them to hate books. Let's tell them to hate public education. Let's tell them to hate all that stuff so we can rip them off. Because that's
Yeah.
what's happened.
And the inability for them to see it. I've been reading a lot on, am I allowed to say fascism? Don't
Yeah,
know.
we tell you it all the time.
Yeah, I've been reading up, and I'm reading the book Trump, the fascist book about Trump. I can't remember the title. I just started it. And it's just, and doing some like quicker research, and it's exactly what's happening.
Mhm.
But they're falling for the calling liberals fascist,
Correct.
which is part of the game that is that.
Well, they call liberals fascists, communists, Marxists, all of
Yes,
them, even though they don't know what any of them mean for the most part.
exactly. Or
Yeah,
socialists, or
yeah,
as if caring about other people is a bad thing.
yeah,
And it's just it's leaking into. I live in Alberta, and it's leaking in here, like with the F Trudeau um,
yeah,
brigade, which I don't know if you've heard much about. I don't know how much Americans hear about Canadian politics.
yeah. He's likely to get voted out because
I know.
just like every other incumbency that was in charge during COVID, when inflation spiked,
Hmm.
everybody else is lost. He's likely to going to lose his seat as well.
Yeah, and I do not know enough currently. I'm working on elevating my knowledge about Trudeau's history, but it is not that bad. Like, did we have a hard time during COVID? Of course we did.
The world did.
Every country did. Everybody was
Exactly.
impacted. And I do think that Trudeau did the best that he could. And I would be even open to considering, okay, maybe I'm not conservative, but at least I wouldn't be afraid the way that I'm afraid now, because I feel like with everything that's going on in the States and this leaking into Canada, that we're all in danger here. Uh, if we elect Pierre Pouvier as
Oh, yeah, he's
who is
crazy.
he's crazy, and all he does is criticize Trudeau. I've not heard him offer one opinion as to what could be done better or how he would do it different. Just the opposite. Whatever Trudeau says, his stance is the opposite, even when it doesn't even make sense. Like,
I mean, concepts of a plan, probably. We get that a lot.
Yeah.
concepts of a plan. Exactly. I've not heard him speak on anything other than hating Trudeau. That's his entire platform. How does that help? I want to know what he stands for. He has
Well,
no
that's
solutions.
so that's
And
the thing, and I would. This is a cautionary tale for our neighbors to the north. I'm 41 miles as the crow flies to the Canadian border, so I get it. Um, what we see from the right, and I've been paying close attention to this, is the same thing we have when we have debates with people on their side. It's like they will complain about something. They will
Hmm.
give you the what they're angry about, but they'll never talk about why it happened or what's more important, how they would fix it.
Exactly.
So that's part of
Yeah.
that's kind of the fight that we're in. This is the misinformation, disinformation void that we're in, which is one of the main reasons I got on TikTok in the first place. I was like, man, there's a lot of misinformation and bullshit out there. What's
Hmm.
going on? Don't facts matter anymore? Oh,
Oh.
okay.
Exactly.
So that's kind of the fight that we're in, and the problem is there's now a model for right wing rhetoric. There's now a model for people to spew whatever
Hmm.
the hell they want. For somebody who worked in media, there used to be integrity in media and journalism. In some places there still are.
Yep.
But now people can literally say whatever the hell they want.
And
Yeah,
that's
and they've
one
Whatever
of
been
they
the
given
want.
one of the how to become a fascist steps is taking away the
Exactly.
media, and it's happening
Exactly.
right before our eyes. Take away the trust in the media.
It's exactly right. It's exactly right. Thanks for
they've
jumping in
tapped
tonight, Lilith.
into
We appreciate you for being here, friend. Thanks a lot. I want to go.
they've
I want
tapped
to just
into people's judgmental nature.
yeah. I want to a little bit. I want to talk about just a couple things as it relates to this because part of what's happened because MAGA and Republicans in general and whomever else decided that Trump was a better solution. The numerous the promises he made in the campaign trail were mass deportation, again based on a lie, based rooted in racism and bigotry, um, and lowering inflation, ending inflation and lowering prices, and then the constant rhetoric he had about disavowing from Project 2025, basically making claims that he didn't know anything about it. So in the Time interview, again, there's some subtle things that he says in here. I don't think he's necessarily subtle, but just the way in which he says things, he always tells us all what we need to know, right? So the question was, during the campaign, you disavowed Project 2025, but so far, at least 5 people you've appointed, I think the number is now 7, actually 9, sorry, 9, you've appointed to top positions in your cabinet have ties to it. Doesn't that undermine what you told American peoples on the campaign trail? No, look, I don't disagree with everything in Project 2025, but I disagree with some things. I specifically didn't want to read it because it wasn't under my auspices. And I wanted to be able to say that, the only way I can say I have nothing to do with it is if you don't read it. I don't want, I didn't
Wait,
want to read it. I read enough about it. They have some things that are very conservative and very good. They have other things that I don't like. I won't go into individual items, but I had nothing to do with Project 2025. Now, if we had a few people that were involved, they had hundreds of them. This is a big document from what I understand. Yeah, more than 800 pages, says the interviewer. It's a lot
he
of
didn't
pages.
have in
That's a lot of
crayon.
pages. It's a lot of pages. That's a lot of pages. I thought it was inappropriate that they came out with it just before the election, to be honest with you. Question, really? I let them know, yeah, I didn't think it was appropriate because it's not for me. Why would they do that? They complicated my election by doing it because people tried to tie me, and I didn't agree with everything in there. And some things I vehemently disagreed with. And I thought it was inappropriate they would come out with a document like that prior to my election. Question, did you express those frustrations with them? Oh, I did. It wasn't a frustration, it was a fact. It's totally inappropriate. They came up with an 800-page document, and the enemy, which is, the other party, is allowed to go through and pick out 2 items, 12 items out of, 800. No, I thought it was I thought it was a very foolish thing for them to do. So once you
So
navigate
bad
through the
because it impacted me bad, not
right, so
actually the content of it.
once you navigate through the Caesar dressing on the word salad there,
Oh my
what
God.
you hear is not disavowing Project 2025 at all. Not when you say, I don't disagree with everything in it, but I disagree with some things in it. That would
I
not
mean,
be
that's his
disavowing.
normal. No, that's his normal plausible deniability move, right?
So
That's
what
his
we are
weed.
seeing what we are seeing in Project 2025, because again, we knew that he was connected to it, numerous promises on the campaign trail, his voters bought it, is what we are seeing with his cabinet picks and the formation of the separate entities within the government, like Doge, for example, are elements of Project 2025. It's the elimination of the Department of Education. It's a consolidation of power to the executive branch. Schedule F, firing career people, civil servants who work in government. and unless they take a loyalty test. The loyalty test is even referenced in this document, in this interview. So now, basically, based on the lies, again, the lies about lowering prices, the lies about mass deportation, the lies about Party 2025, his voters bought it, and now we have given the keys to our entire government, our entire country, to the billionaire class, who, by the way, will be passing legislation to benefit the billionaire class. Make that make sense. Make that make sense. This is where we are.
It's exhausting. And don't get me started on Project 2025. Check out Progress 2028. We want to talk about that was the PAC that was supposedly Kamala's, and like it was just some dark money bullshit supported by some company having to do with Elon Musk. Like it was so clearly meant to seed doubt and othering and misinformation and disinformation.
Yeah.
It's just disgusting.
Yeah. Hi, Erica.
Hello, love.
Hello. How are we all?
We are good. How are you?
We're making it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like that right now. But yeah.
Mid. Benson would say mid.
Yeah. Yeah, that. I'm like with you guys, like I would not ever condone anybody taking this kind of action. But at the same time, I say that from the comfort of knowing that whatever medical bills I may rack up, I'm not going to be responsible for them directly. So, you know, I imagine were I in a position where the position that I am in right now, where I have, family members who have, serious physical illnesses, and they were denied medical care or denied being paid for those, I might feel differently.
Mhm.
That's the thing, isn't it? Like folks in your country probably can't even fathom ever getting to a point that would happen. That's literally the unique. Yeah, we are exceptional, all right. I guess.
Well, it's not just the thing. The thing you have to remember is it's not just this country; it's every other developed nation, all of them.
Right.
So it's not the case of just people here. Like no other developed country in the world can imagine, how much healthcare costs. What was the figure that you said earlier, Facts? When you were talking about how much the US spends on.
By 2027, it'll be $6 trillion.
Yeah, that one.
And at that same time, the healthcare industry will turn each $1 trillion profit. On average, Americans pay $14,000 out of pocket.
Okay, so I looked up how much the National Health Service pays per year or paid last year, and it was something like 272 million pounds. We have 1/6 of the population that the US has.
Mhm.
So that works out to be something like 1.7 trillion if we multiply it by the number of people. Then let's say 2.5 trillion if we're let's be generous and say 2.5 trillion if we're working it out in terms of we're doing the exchange rate and all of that malarkey.
Right.
I think it's something like 5,500, the equivalent of maybe $6,000 per person that the NHS spends per capita per year.
Mhm.
It's not even in the same ballpark.
Not even close.
No, because you don't have a third party to make money that needs to
Well,
make money in
Third
between
party,
them.
there's like 9 parties involved.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, I'm just
Yeah.
talking like the plot of the, like you've got people in between there, i.e. the insurance companies, having to make a profit and have fidelity to their shareholders. That is incongruent with needed human right healthcare.
So, guys, there's a live fest. I'm not exactly sure what it means, but There's a live fest.
Nobody knows what the Live Fest means, but
I
everybody's
don't know.
promoting
But
it. I
there's like
love
new
that.
stuff. I don't know. But there's a gifting goal. There's a subscriber goal as well, guys, if you don't mind. And please continue to tap and share. Please gift our panelists. Thank you. Sorry, Erica. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I was just one of the benefits of having a universal healthcare system is that you are not leaving it down to individual healthcare providers to negotiate prices.
Yep.
You
Welcome to
are
learning.
negotiating. I mean, all of the healthcare systems. Well, England and Wales are together. Scotland and Northern Ireland are separate, but they're negotiating for approximately 60 million people's healthcare all at the
Hang
same
on one
time.
second, Erica. So Rob HC, you say not all billionaires are bad. Okay. It's all of them until it's none of them. So go ahead. Go ahead, Erica. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say you have the power of negotiating for 60 million people at the same time,
Yep.
and therefore you are getting the best possible prices. So
Collective
we are
bargaining.
not paying our government is not paying the same amount for an asthma inhaler as each individual healthcare provider is paying in the US. We are not paying the same for an acetaminophen. We are not paying the same for, I don't even know what that is in English, by the way. I think
I
it's
don't know.
Yeah,
paracetamol.
Tylenol for us.
Yeah, yeah, so paracetamol. We're not paying the same prices as you are because they can negotiate it all for the benefit of 60 million people.
That's right.
Um,
That's the piece that I think people, and I'm glad you brought that up. That's the piece that people don't understand. It's the argument. Again, I'm so sick of saying this, but it's necessary. $6 trillion. Now, the question that I ask again for people who believe in the concept of billionaires being altruistic and philanthropic and want to look out for the rest of us, why have we not heard a peep from either Vivek or Elon or Trump or anybody when it comes to saying we've got a lot of inefficiency in our healthcare system? Let's go after that. No, because people in his cabinet are connected to the healthcare industry. His donor class connected to the healthcare industry. We now have a new policy in place where if you invest $1 billion in America, they will let you circumvent regulations, rules, protocols. So that's where we're at. Efficiency in government. Okay, first of all, that's the ultimate oxymoron. But the reality is, people claim that we can't afford it, and we're spending $6 trillion on it, right?
There's
One
got to be a better way.
18% of our GDP.
can I
18%.
can I point something out? C
Please.
Dubs in the comments said, "Why do liberals hate millionaires? Live your own life. Get the f out of here." Right. First of all, I'm not there, but secondly, that is the mindset of a lot of people that I've spoken to who are MAGA or Republican or conservative, whatever we're calling them today. They have this mindset that at some point they are going to be. And by the way, a millionaire is nothing these days. Like if my mum and dad sold their house, we would probably be millionaires.
There you go.
Like it's not a million is like nothing in this day and age. There are
It's true.
so many paper millionaires, it's unreal. But and by the way, a billionaire is so far above a millionaire that you can't even imagine how different they are in terms of income. But the point of this is a lot of people who voted for Trump, they see themselves as potentially becoming that one day,
Of
a
course.
multimillionaire slash billionaire, and so they don't want to limit the wealth that people can acquire because they hope to be in that they hope to be in that bracket one day. So they don't want to limit that for those people because they don't want to limit it for themselves.
Of course not. Mother
And
Hen,
it's
thank you for being here.
selfish.
Sorry. So thank you for being here, Mother Hen. What's on your mind?
Hey, Steve, and I'm sorry, Fax.
You can call me Steve. That's okay.
I talked to you the other night about the Luigi Mangione situation there, and
Yeah.
I think everybody knows who I am if they've ever met me at all. I'm very much about letter of the law, accountability, and so on. But this has really been gnawing at me, and I actually wound up writing
Join the
something
club.
down. Yeah, but yeah, the thing I wrote it down because it's a thought that I can't get out of my head. A vigilante is somebody who acts against perceived offenses or crimes without legal authority. And as Americans, we've been glorifying vigilante justice since we declared our independence. In a polite society, we establish a government. That government creates a system of laws and recognized positions of authority and enforcement, of which all citizens are supposed to be treated equally. And this is where it breaks down. When a government abandons their duty to provide safety and protections equally in favor of the ruling class, the majority no longer feels bound by the social contract of a polite society.
Hmm.
So therein lies the issue. We have been depending on our government, our leaders, to enforce the system of laws and to not be derelict of their duty about our general welfare. And because we operate under a social contract, granted it's unwritten, they're in breach of contract right now, and that's why everybody's losing their damn mind. That's not the part I wrote down, but that's the best I can explain it.
I don't disagree with what you wrote. I really don't. And again, I completely understand. I just go back to what I said earlier, Mother Hen, right? If this is the course we take, there's no going back from it.
All right. Well, the second part of that I haven't gotten to writing down yet is that I feel that Mangione needs to be prosecuted and needs to be held accountable because
Agreed?
without that accountability, we are just as guilty as the folks that committed the offenses in January 6th or Kyle Rittenhouse.
Mhm.
And by being held accountable, he will become a martyr, and that only strengthens any movement. Any movement
Potentially,
worth
I
a
don't
darn
disagree.
has always
I
had a
don't disagree
martyr.
with that either. Yeah, I don't disagree with that either. Um, I just, it's like you said, it's a very challenging conversation. I, I struggle with vigilante justice because you added there's a bit of a disclaimer in there. Sure, obviously we understand what it is, a perception of threat, whatever that might be, but the action was literally taking justice into our own hands. So
Correct.
first of all, we've lost the ability as a society to say that we are a nation built on the rule of law, not when somebody gets reelected after stealing
Literally being
documents,
a
hiding them in
felon.
his shitter. We've lost that ability, so we've lost that. We can no longer stand on that principle in the world. There's just no way we can do that. As a society, though, if we just decide that, I'll, I may not, I'm just going to, just for the sake of argument, I'm just going to make a wild claim. You know what? I went to the car dealership today, and I don't think I should pay $40,000 for my Ford Lightning or my $90,000 for my Ford Lightning, right, Erica? So instead of trying to figure out why am I paying so much, I'm going to drive to Detroit. I'm going to unalive the CEO of Ford Motor Company. I know that may not necessarily be the perfect example, but where is the line? Where
Right.
is the
No,
line? When
I
do we
hear you.
decide that those of us, although yes, the societal contract, the social contract has been broken time and time again. There's never been a social contract to defend the rights of marginalized communities. Let's be real. But what if it doesn't work? What's next? If we don't get change, I think it's apathy, quite frankly. We've got energy, we've got motivation, we've got this, everybody's talking about this, right? This is a
Hmm.
conversation, right? A conversation here where we have to have it. If we're going to be apathetic and do what we usually do and not do anything about it and just let people bend us over, then our response is going to be violence. And if nothing changes, is it just more violence and then more violence and then more violence? That's a question. I mean, perhaps rhetorical, but that's still a question.
Can I point something out though? Um, your country has decided to elect a man that does all the things that you would tell your kid not to do. He does all the things that you would advise your child not to do. So I agree in this breakdown of the with the this idea that the social contract has been completely destroyed because any good parent teaches their kid, to be polite and respectful to other people. He is polite and respectful to no one. They teach their kid to say sorry when they make a mistake. He has said sorry once in his life, and it was followed by the word but.
Mm.
He speaks badly about every single person, even the people he likes, he speaks badly about, unless they're flattering him at the time. Um, I don't know how anyone in the US is ever going to chastise their child and tell their child that they shouldn't be doing these things when the example they see is the President of the United States doing exactly what you're telling your kid not to do.
Right.
Yeah, shouldn't be idolizing politicians. But I agree, Erica. I agree.
But I mean, my main point was just that, we all feel the hurt because we've all in some way been affected by insurance companies, by the greed of corporate CEOs, and dirty politicians.
Yep.
But because we have agreed, those of us who believe in that social contract, that we should uphold laws and not do things that would harm other people, I'm sorry, Luigi has to go to jail. And we have to make an example of the fact that, look, we get your pain, we understand why you did it, but that's no excuse for doing it.
Both things can be true. That's the hard
Yep.
part. The paradox
That's
you
right.
have to hold in all of it, right? Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
I mean, I'm constantly talking about the tolerance paradox. We're just as guilty. If we become the intolerant as well, then what happens to tolerance?
Exactly.
But that's all I
It's a,
had for you.
I appreciate you, and we always have good conversations. You always melt my brain with with all of your awesomeness.
Sorry.
So no, it's great. I love it.
Love your
I appreciate
brain,
you.
Mother
Have a good
Hen.
night. See you
You
later.
too. Bye-bye.
It's a really good point, right? I mean, we probably don't talk enough about the social contract. I mean, most people don't care about it. I think people who, by and large, do respect and either honor the unwritten social contract tend to be a bit more empathetic, understanding that we're in a society that we have to kind of work together. And I believe in this theory of all boats rise. And no one, and Janique, by the way, I saw your comment. Yes, it was a horrible analogy about the auto industry. I was just trying to make a point. I'm just trying to say, where's the line? Like, where's the line? That was a bad analogy, so I'm sorry for saying it.
Well,
Anyway, the social contract component is such that those of us who believe in a society that is governed by the law, that is governed by morality, that is governed by respect and appreciation and support of others, we tend to always morally follow the social contract, but we don't get anything back from it. That's the problem, like being an empath. We're never going to get back what we give. Same thing in our society. We're never going to get back what we give.
well, I think though, when we say that he has to be held accountable, I completely agree, he absolutely does. But I also think that accountability for people like CEOs, they are rarely held accountable for the things that they do. They are
Yeah.
rarely held accountable for the people that they hurt, the people that they unalive. The laws around corporate unaliving have to be strengthened, but that needs to be done in conjunction with with laws around health and safety and all of all and fairness, and nobody is holding these companies to account.
Yeah.
And if you, you really, I mean, if one person does it in daylight with a pew pew, is that really worse than somebody doing it under the guise of an AI automated system that
PDF
that
files.
does it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's where the problem lies,
Yep.
is effectively the guy that was unalive and the guy that did the unaliving did the same thing, they just did it by different means.
Yeah. Galactic Macaroni just pointed this out. The rich are often rewarded for bad behavior. Hey, Rusty, bro, I'm not getting notifications on my phone. I saw that you called last night. I'm sorry, Mr. Pal. What's on your mind?
Sure you don't.
I'm not. It's been happening for a week. I don't know what the hell's going on. Anyway, my bad.
No, no worries, brother. A couple of things. One of the things when you read that statement from Orange Weasel Teats uh, from I think it was the Time Magazine article,
Yeah.
in the statement, he again stated that we on the left are the enemy.
Exactly.
He cannot stop painting half, if not more than half, of the United States as
Exactly.
the enemy.
Correct.
Well, yeah, that's by
And
design.
no,
The
absolutely,
enemy
it's by
from
design.
within.
And yeah, as long as he does that, and his, paint eating followers look at us that way, they'll never listen.
And
They'll
they'll
never
never look at the
hear.
billionaires, right? We
No,
keep infighting, and he keeps playing with his friends. That's how it is.
yeah, exactly. I remember years ago when I still owned my school, um, I had a couple of parents who were very conservative, and the conversation got sparked. And in the course of the conversation, one of the parents just looked me right in the eye and said, "Well, I absolutely believe that billionaires work harder than the rest of us." And I just said, "Have you ever met a ditch digger? Have you ever talked to somebody picking strawberries? I'm sorry. No, they don't work harder than the rest of us. They have an addiction to money and power.
Yeah.
They are psychopaths. And they don't care who they crush to get their goal of owning everything." And, while I am no pacifist, I also don't condone uh, vigilante justice unless it's Batman. And
Fair.
because Batman.
That's an
Um,
Batman.
exception. Yes.
yeah, absolutely. But
Daredevil.
no, I don't condone vigilante justice, but much like you said, I understand it.
Exactly.
And I have said for a long time, you've heard me say it, two words the rich have forgotten is French Revolution.
Yep.
And was that in a particularly ugly period in France? Absolutely. Did it result in Napoleon's rise to power? Absolutely.
Didn't we have a guest on the panel a day or two ago that was like versed in the French Revolution? I feel like somebody came up in our panel that was talking about that.
Yeah, they were on Steve's live yesterday or the day before.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Can I say that that's why the unions are so strong in France? That's why still to this day, union power in France is really strong, and French people will. It's a joke here that French people will literally drop anything and go out on the streets and protest, and
Yeah.
they're taken seriously because the government knows they're FAFO. It's
So
happened before.
Well, our
Rusty.
media for decades has been telling us that, and I mean, not so much news, but even the entertainment media has been telling us how corrupt unions are.
Yeah.
You,
Right.
you watch movies about Jimmy Hoffa and the mafia, and they've got their hands in labor unions. And
Yeah.
okay,
Meanwhile, they work a 40-hour work week and get overtime pay and don't like.
well that's the thing. I also have people on that particular side of the social structure who will say you can walk down the streets in a mob controlled area perfectly safely. Now, does
Right.
that justify criminality? No,
No.
but you
So
can walk down those streets
the
safe.
question for you, Rusty, and I know, I mean, you would, I think, self-admittedly call yourself a cynic. Um,
Yes.
do you think because we were talking earlier this week about whether or not this is a revolutionary moment or a tipping point or whatever that might be, do you think this is something that could potentially galvanize people unexpectedly so towards the common goal of eliminating billionaires, figuratively speaking,
Well, I think,
or
and,
literally?
and you and I talked about this the other day, that it's odd that both the rank and file of MAGA and us accept the fact that, hey, this guy was a jerk face. The victim of Luigi. He was instrumental in stealing money from people who were trying to buy a product only to say you can't use this product.
Right.
And that would result in their demise or
Right.
their health going to hell and their families' ability to prosper going to hell, so that a small group of people could suck up all the money. And even MAGA can appreciate, oh, that's a terrible thing, but then in the same breath they say, yeah, but Medicare for all is socialism.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it's
Or if we were to
okay.
say, hey, let's create an independent commission that will do some oversight on the ethical practices in these companies, right? Or the practices, just to keep them accountable in some way within this privatized system. No, they would say, like, no, you can't be telling them what to do. That would infringe with their ability to make a profit.
I will say,
Well,
I
these
will
are
say
the
this
same.
publicly. I'll say this publicly right now. Hang on a second. I'll say this publicly right now. If there's anybody who can come up here and tell me, okay, in front of 500 people and in front of me, my witnesses, if anybody come up here and tell me that there is an economic or social argument against universal health care, I will delete my account.
Right. That part. There just isn't.
I think there just isn't. There is not an argument that can be made against it. So again, back to the point. Rusty, right? Do you think that this is something that can change the system?
I think it is possible that while this, I don't know that this is a tipping point, because we all know in a week it's going to be buried in social conscience for the new stuff that's coming out.
They'll make sure they have something else for us to stay infighting about. So
absolutely, but I do think that it is possible that maybe it has lit a fuse, but it's a long fuse.
Long fuse.
Yeah, I don't think it's a tipping point where all of a sudden the unwashed masses go, hey, yeah, why don't we get behind this? The right has done a brilliant job over decades of polluting the social consciousness with bullshit.
Yeah.
And finding those people that are susceptible, that are superstitious, that can't look at reality and have to live in some fantasy world because it makes them feel better to live there, and they just capitalize and capitalize and capitalize on that. And I knowing that healthcare is something we all have to deal with.
That's right.
Maybe it lit a fuse, but I don't think it's.
I don't know.
It's going to be a quick fix, because they're real good at circling the wagons.
Thanks for jumping in, buddy. Appreciate you.
You got it, pal.
Talk to you later.
Bye. Hey, everybody could, let's just take a little break. Can everybody power tap for about 60 seconds at least? I know we've got about 400, almost 500 people in here. So if you would please, thank you so much for being here. These are important conversations, and we really, really, really want to push it out to the FYP for other people to come and join us. It's important that we talk about this so we can come together, because we can do this. We can stop the infighting. So hit that little heart, join our team. That's going to help also get the interactions up and going. We also have the little share button on the lower right. Those of you that are used to these lives, you know how that works. You can hit the copy
Your
link.
other right, Steve.
Oh, your other right. Yeah. No, he said, yeah, that one right there.
Way.
That one right there. Right there, below my finger. My very well manicured finger. My nail tech is lit. And also, don't forget, we have a Discord, and we always talk about joining the Discord. And so please come and join us. We would love to have you there. We talk about a lot of really great things on Discord. We'll announce different things. You don't have to be a subscriber to join, but we always appreciate subscribers. And so if you are a subscriber to our TikTok, you also get a 10% discount to the merch store, which the lovely Steve is wearing one of my favorite pieces of the Hey Now. You can wear it and think of Steve saying "Hey now" anytime you want.
And wrap yourself in facts.
I just have to say, I love how 90s the colors are on that, like early 90s.
That's my favorite part about it. It's
so true.
It's giving.
I wonder who decided to put. Anyway,
I wonder whose lovely choices that were.
And also above my head, you'll see this is my Blue Sky handle. This is YouTube. So people have been asking, like, what are you guys going to do if this goes away? Well, this is what we're going to do. We are
Yes.
currently
I
streaming on
also have
YouTube.
a
So if you're over there, please subscribe to the channel. Please drop a comment. Please drop a like and do all those things. So
I
thank you.
also have a Blue Sky. It's just Amy Dawn.
There you
Same
go.
as here. So go follow me as well.
Good evening, Steph. How are you?
I'm well, sir. How are you?
Doing fine, thank you. I think, did you have me confused with someone else?
I did, and I
Okay,
apologize.
that's
I,
okay.
I thought you were Facts Matter,
No,
aka Maggot Slayer.
no.
No.
Got the still in the
No.
middle.
Do what? I'm so sorry.
I
No,
said
this,
he's got a still in the middle. But I'm glad you came up, Steph. You made a comment about Obamacare was supposed to fix, or Obamacare didn't work, or something to that effect. Could you like repeat what you said in the comments? Because I'm wondering what you meant by that.
Yes, ma'am. And I do apologize, though, for mistaken
Oh, no worries.
its
People do it all.
identity.
it's all good. It's happened before. It's no
People do it
problem.
all the time. They're well. Yeah, we know him. It happens
Yeah.
all the
Okay.
time.
Uh, you know, Obamacare was put into place, and everybody, believed that it was going to be, pretty much an affordable healthcare plan for everyone, right?
No.
Okay, explain to me what your idea of Obamacare was. I'm sorry.
Okay, so there's a couple things to think about. First of all, the initial outline of the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, had much more extensive coverage for millions more Americans until the Republicans in Congress got a hold of it.
That
And then
part.
it had to be gutted and pared down to what we have been left with. And then you recall in 2016 when Trump ran on repealing and replacing Obamacare, thanks to John McCain's downvote, which would have literally kicked, I think the number at the time was 84 million Americans off of health care. So that's where we're at. So if you're thinking that, Steph, you got a lot of background noise. I don't know whatever you're doing. If you could just stop for just a second.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. So if you think that that Obamacare is universal health care, is that what you think?
No, sir, not at all. I think it
Okay.
was probably, our first start, a
But I
way
think
to it.
to your point,
Yeah,
Steph,
it was a big. It was
people think, to
getting
your
to the
point,
point where,
people think
yeah,
that Obamacare is universal. And so that's why they maybe are again, oh, no, we can't have that because look at it. It doesn't work now. Like it has nothing that Obamacare
it
is still
doesn't.
privatized healthcare.
Yeah, 63% of Americans who are on Obamacare approve of it, which is a
Yeah.
pretty high number because
It just helps.
no matter what system you have, people are always going to complain about it. In Erica's country, they have universal health care and people complain about it, but they would never give it up. So
Right.
I think the point is, Steph, do you advocate for universal health care?
I do not. No, sir.
Why not?
Um,
And please let me take
well,
this, you guys. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Steph.
I I saw what Obamacare, and I know that that's not universal health care, but I saw what it did to me, my family, and my costs of
Okay.
of healthcare for because at first Obamacare promised that you could keep your own provider and your own doctor
Well, how
and
about
all
this?
this.
How
I'm
about this?
sorry. Yes, sir.
That's okay, Steph. I think you've got them seriously confused. Okay, so let's start there. So Obamacare was an option for people to purchase insurance from the system who didn't have it, either through their employer or just couldn't get it, which means you had to pay for it. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Universal health care means we as consumers don't pay for it. We get an increase in our taxes, but we have coverage. We don't pay premiums. We don't pay copays. We don't pay for prescriptions. We don't pay for all the other things that we pay for now. So those are the fundamental differences between them. So part of the system that we are currently in, Steph, it's like, do you believe as a society we can't afford it?
Can you break down how much more taxes would be?
Sure, I can. How
Okay.
about this? Do you know what the average American family pays for now for health insurance every year?
I
Person,
know
not
what
family, not family. Person, the average American.
person.
Yeah, the average
I
American
don't.
person.
We're under a family plan, so no, sir.
No, I know, but they've done the numbers individually. They've spread out because we spend X number of dollars every single year towards health insurance. So do you know what the average American pays?
No, sir.
Close to $14,000 per year. There are numerous studies that have been done on the impact of universal health care, and even if we raise taxes, the American family would save about $7,000 a year, which means we'd pay half of what we're paying now, and we'd
But
have coverage.
would we get the same coverage?
No,
Like we
actually,
did,
we would. No, we wouldn't,
we
Seth. We'd actually get better coverage.
More, better.
because Obamacare lied. We didn't get to keep
No,
our
Obamacare
doctors.
didn't.
Obamacare's not universal healthcare,
Hang
Steph.
on one second, Steph. Yeah, again, you're confusing the two, Steph. Let's just imagine for a second that Obamacare and the ACA doesn't exist. Okay,
Okay,
let's just
forget
imagine
it. Forget
doesn't
about it.
exist.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
doesn't exist. What we're talking about now is changing our society from a system where people either get their insurance through work or they don't have it. Okay, universal health care covers every single American.
Okay, so that's not true, sir.
That's what
You
universal health care is, Steph.
no, but it's what you said was every person gets their health care through work or they don't have it. That's not true. I'm a realtor and I pay for my health care. Does that make
Again,
sense?
Steph, I know that. I'm trying to describe to you what universal health care is. Right now, we have tens of millions of Americans that do not have insurance. Can you agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Universal health care would mean that every single citizen of our nation would have health care,
Whether they have a job or not.
whether they have a job or not.
You're a human and can get your health care.
So,
Okay?
so here's my rebuttal, sir.
Okay.
Okay, I have a job, my husband has a job, and um why should we pay $7,000 more in taxes for people who
Oh,
don't want to work?
I can
Hold
answer
on one
that,
second, Erica.
Steph.
I got it. I got this. Sorry. This is just important to me. Steph, what I just explained to you, okay, is that we all collectively now, we all, whether we have insurance or not, we all pay on average $14,000 a year, and we get lousy coverage. So that goes away. Okay. We now have universal health care. So if we're paying $14,000 out of pocket now, wouldn't you like to save $7,000 a year?
Yes, sir. I guess you're right. I mean, if that's the truth,
That's the
you know.
model.
That's the
Okay.
model.
Okay. So
That's what Medicare for all does. That's the model, Steph. So yes, there's an increase in your taxes, but you don't pay money out of pocket. Do
You
you know
no
what the
longer
number
have.
one cause? Do you know what the number one cause of bankruptcy is in the United
Just
States?
gonna say that. Yep. No.
I know it's probably medical expenses.
It is. It's medical debt. We're going to spend as a society inside of 2 years $6 trillion in healthcare costs, and there are still tens of millions of Americans that don't have coverage. The reason that our costs are so high is because we pay for people who don't have insurance. So why not insure everybody? And we save money. Our
Can
society is healthier. Our society is healthier. We live longer. We save
Happier.
money. Once again, no economic or societal argument against.
can I add on to that?
Sure.
You'll actually also get paid more money, Steph, because your
That's right.
employer won't be paying into an insurance policy for you in order to keep you
Oh,
covered. So potentially your earnings would go up because currently your employer, I don't know what your employer spends on medical care every year, but they will no longer have to spend that money. Plus, if you want people to be doing things like having babies, um, and then you're charging them at least $10,000 for the privilege of doing that. A lot of people are not having children because of how much children cost.
Yeah.
And that cost is taken away. Your maternity, your all of your maternity care is free at the point of service. Your child's medical costs are free at the point of service.
And
You don't
Steph, you
have
know
to
what?
worry that you're going to have a big bill for having a baby or having an accident.
Right. And Steph, you know what else? Some of the highest paid CEOs in our country work in healthcare.
Oh,
They
yes,
get
sir, I believe
richer
that.
and richer every single year, and we get poorer and poorer as a nation. And there's again tens of millions of Americans who don't have insurance.
So you're
So you are
saying
now a supporter. So you're now a supporter of universal health care, right?
I am, dadgummit.
See?
She said.
You
See,
got
when you
me.
go
Steph,
through when you break it down practically speaking, if we're going to save money as a society, which we are, we are going to guarantee access to insurance that everybody in our nation is insured, which we can, which means we live longer, we're more productive, we get paid more, we have more options for mental health, vision, dental, all these things that just make us better. I got. Do you believe? Do you prescribe to this America First theory?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Okay, so then here's my challenge to you. I would like you to demand from your elected Republican officials to say, I want the best fucking healthcare system in the world.
world.
I
Deal.
want everybody in the country to look at the United States of America and say, they have the best healthcare system in the world. Right
And you're
now,
saying
we don't.
it's only seven. Okay, so at the end of the year, it's $7,000 more on taxes. Is
Just
that per?
again,
That's
don't
per. That's
don't
per
quote me on that.
individual.
Don't quote me on that number, Steph. Plus or minus, on average, what the estimates have been done, and this has been done across the board by many. It's within a range between $6,000 and $7,000 per person.
It's per person, right?
Some
That's
people will pay.
Savings,
Some people will pay
savings.
a little bit more. I mean, that's not to say some people might have more time, but those are going to be the young folks, right? As far as healthcare goes societally, it's always older people are going to need it more. Younger people, it's a wealth transfer. I mean, that's definitely a thing,
I
right?
mean,
There's a,
my
yeah,
dad pays. He pays an ungodly amount for type 1 diabetes,
right.
and it's and Medicare, is it Medicare or Medic whatever he's on in his 70s. I mean, he had to pick up a secondary.
Yeah.
Yes,
Imagine not having to do that, right?
Steph,
Imagine a society where you can go see a mental health therapist whenever you need to, in case you're feeling a little sad and you need a few sessions. Imagine a world where you cannot have your job and your employed nature be connected with if you can go to the doctor or not.
yeah.
Are
Let
you are
me.
you are you saying I need psychiatric help?
We all
No.
do. I
I'm just
do.
No.
I'm
kidding.
saying I need it.
I'm
We
Everybody,
all need it.
yeah, everybody needs a therapist. I
I
am
want to
one.
bring
And
in. I
But
want to bring in Reese because I think Reese said, yeah, Reese. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Is it Reese?
Well,
It
you
is,
got me. You
yeah.
got me.
Hi, Reese. So
Hey,
you worked in the ACA for a long
for
time. So I
10
appreciate you
years
requesting.
now.
I appreciate you requesting. So we're I think we've got Steph to the point where maybe she gets it and universal health care is in her future.
great
Demanding
Yeah,
question.
America first.
the reason I requested is because I just want to kind of give a high level overview of what you said about being able to keep your insurance and or your doctor.
Right.
And you could. Nothing about what the ACA put in place stopped that. What happened was um, your insurance provider and or your doctor refused to comply with the ACA regulations. So they are required by the ACA to provide A, B, and C type of care, right? Um, and if said insurance provider did not want to do that because they're greedy, quite honestly, um, then they did not enroll in the ACA. They did not sign on to the ACA. Therefore, you could not keep it if you wanted the ACA. And back
Right.
then, there was those taxes or fines or penalties, whatever word you want to use. You could easily get an exemption, which is what I did at first. But um, your plan would not comply with the ACA. You could have it, but it would not comply, and you'd still be um, held to that penalty. And those
Correct.
penalties were only put in place to try to um, get these insurance companies and doctors on board. So there were some counties that literally only had one insurance plan available, not because the ACA said they couldn't, but because they refused to comply with the regulations of the ACA. And one last thing is that um, it was much more affordable, covered a lot more things when Obama put it in his administration did it. The
Oh,
Republicans, he ripped everything if he could. And I worked for them. I watched it happen. I worked for CMS. I watched the regulations come down and change.
I
And
paid $25 a month the first time I had it.
yeah, so that's what
Hey,
happened. And I just wanted to clear that up because
thank you, Reese. I
it's a
appreciate that.
huge misconception. It's super frustrating. And I've talked to countless, I'm in quality now, but I used to actually work with the consumers. And I have talked to countless people just like you who lost their insurance and thought exactly what you came up here and said. And so I
I,
understand exactly why you think that that's what happened.
I,
But
did,
the
I didn't
reality is
lose
it's insurance,
lose my
not,
insurance.
yeah.
But what
Thank you,
happened
Reese.
was at, I'm sorry, Reese. What
No, go
happened
ahead.
what happened was, I was managing a restaurant and I was paying a certain amount, for insurance, out of every check. And they rolled out Obamacare and they had us watch a video on Obamacare versus United Healthcare, which is what we had. And I mean, I'm not 100. Yeah, I'm pretty 100% sure that the deductible for Obamacare was like $5,000. It was something insane, and I was just like, and I just wanted to keep my regular. I liked United Healthcare, and I just wanted to keep it for my family. And my health insurance doubled per check because I didn't choose Obamacare. I chose to keep my regular health care, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and I hear you. And I'm going to say this and then I'm going to drop because I'm shopping and I don't want to take up the all this air. But
Thanks, Reese.
um, is that's valid, and I hear you. I hear that. I also um, would like you to understand that I have ADHD and my sentence escaped me. Well,
It's
crap.
not it's not
Hold
Obamacare
on.
we're talking about, right?
Yeah. Um, well, shoot. Huh. I don't. Hmm.
Well, no,
That's okay.
Obamacare and the ACA stuff are the same thing.
Yeah, they are.
Did I just
Yeah.
hear you say this is not Obamacare we're talking about?
It's. I thought she said it was, but maybe I
Oh,
misheard.
No, it's
Yeah, it's the
not, right?
same.
I mean
Yeah.
that was just my
You. Oh no, you chose not to take the ACA. Yeah.
yeah.
right.
We're the
Yes,
same
Yeah.
thing.
yes.
But they
Obamacare
are the
is the
same thing.
ACA.
Yeah. They're the
You
same thing,
chose to
Steph.
stay outside of the ACA and go privately.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can
Again,
do that.
Reese, thanks for jumping
Yes,
in tonight. I
I
appreciate you.
liked my
Yeah,
health care.
you're welcome.
You guys see you later.
Y'all have a good night.
So, Stefan,
Bye, Reese.
I've got some more numbers for you. Okay, I think that I found a little bit more data. So, again, our healthcare spending is estimated to continue to rise and will reach $6 trillion a year. Okay, our current system now, we as a nation will spend 6 trillion, not with a B, trillion with a T. That means, according to the federal government, we will spend between around $42.9 trillion over the next decade. Okay. Medicare for all will cost less than our current system. A recent study determined that Medicare for all would save around 75,000 lives a year while reducing U.S. healthcare spending by nearly 16%, or $450 billion per year. Medicare for all spending would be approximately 37.8 trillion between 2017 and 2026, according to this study. The amounts about 5 trillion, that amounts to around $5 trillion in savings over that time. Again, the study found that Medicare for all would provide guaranteed health care to everyone, provide access to home and community-based care for all who need it, guarantee coverage for dental, vision, mental health, and hearing services, end medical debt and medical bankruptcies, reduce administrative waste by $500 billion per year, and price gouging by pharmaceutical companies, and put an end to corporations profiting off the sick. Say it with me, Steph. You support universal health care.
I support universal health care.
Boom.
Yay, Steph. Thanks for
You,
coming on and listening to learn. Good
you
job.
got me. You got me. I support it.
I
You
appreciate
know.
that. Again, so your elected officials, when you not for the presidency, who did you do you vote for Congress? Do you vote for your members of
Oh,
Congress?
oh yes, sir. Am I
Okay,
am
so
I
then
go- am I governor?
then you petition them to say
Demand it.
I was on with this weird looking guy with a silver beard and he convinced me that I now want universal health care. How do I get it?
He looked like Anderson Cooper's brother.
Thank you for being here tonight, Steph. I appreciate you very much. You have a good evening,
Thank
okay?
you. Yes, sir.
You
You
got it.
too.
All right. Bye.
Steph.
Bye bye.
Appreciate Reese for that education too. I did. I kind of think like maybe remember that, but it's good to be reminded that yeah, the the misfires of Obamacare weren't Obama's fault.
Yeah.
Not all of them
Exactly.
were. Not all of them were though.
Sir Nose Devoid Funk. How are you tonight?
Hey, what's happening? How y'all doing today?
Doing
I
fine,
like
man.
your I like
What's
your
on your
live,
mind?
man.
Thank
I
you.
like your live. I usually just watch it from the wings, but I wanted to come up here and I agree with you with why aren't billionaires the common enemy? Because greed rules in America. You know, America was created for greedy rich men to not have to pay taxes, and they basically made. I don't understand how you can think nothing's wrong with Elon Musk, a guy worth several $100 billion, who wants to cut people's Social Security. Not an entitlement, something people paid towards since they started working. He's never really worked for anything that I know of. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he's ever actually worked for anything. He got millions of dollars from his father's South African jade mine,
Yeah.
came to the United States, and the government, for whatever reason, I guess he had ideas and connections, gave him billions of dollars to supplement his projects or whatever. I don't know. I'm not that educated in business, but I know enough to know he did not earn a thing. And I think it's almost impossible for a billionaire to earn anything.
I
They can
wouldn't
make it
even
so
be mad
where
if he
people will
did.
pay towards their greed. I'm sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead.
I mean, think about this though, right? So we've got Elon Musk, right, who is worth roughly say $500 billion. He
Well, they say
meets with members
360,
of
but go ahead.
he meets with members of Congress who on average make around or worth around 2.3 to 2.5 million dollars on average, are worth about that much. They make around $15,000 a month it's serving in Congress. They
Yes,
have the best health care in the world. They have it for life. They have a pension that they'll have for life. And
yes.
they're meeting to discuss cutting Social Security to
For
people who
people
make
that make $30,000
$1,700
a
a
year.
month.
Right,
Yeah, 1,700
exactly.
bucks a month. And again,
Right.
that's the government efficiency that we're talking about. So those people, these are the people that the right has put in charge to say you're going to make my life better. Meanwhile, they're like, nope. Yes, we are. We are going to make your life better. Absolutely, we are. We
Host,
promise we're going
host,
to make your life better.
host. Remember the term Robert Barons of the old, I guess
Yeah,
the 18 and early 1900s? That's what they are. Robber
exactly.
barons. They're going to
That's exactly
steal, they're
right.
going to rape and molest this country in more ways than one. Financially, definitely. Physically, I hope not, but probably that way too. And the robber barons. And then guess who they're going to blame it on? The darkies, the
Of
brown
course they are.
people,
Of
the
course they are.
poor people,
Oh yeah.
Of
the
course
Anybody
they are.
else?
loose women, the loose
Yep.
women. And I'm saying that
LGBTQIA.
sarcastically because anything that they can throw against the wall that'll stick, they're gonna throw it against the wall.
Oh yeah. Any
Well said,
othering
sir.
that's
Well
successful
said.
as long as
Yes,
it's not them. Yeah.
Thank you for
yes.
being here tonight, friend. Appreciate you very much. We'll see you later.
All right, thanks for having me.
Come on, folks. Let's power tap to 150. We're only at 135. I know there's only about half of the number. Oh, that's Craig.
It's Cookies from Cookie.
Cookies.
WV, how are you tonight? WV Hillbilly.
Hi. Doing well. Wanted to mention a couple of things when you were talking about Medicare for All. A couple of things people forget. Think about how, and you may have mentioned this, and I apologize because I've been in and out. People forget how much time doctors' offices spend on billing all these insurance companies and dealing with all the follow-up. Imagine if they only had the one.
Yeah, we pay the cost.
Second, Medicare as a agency and organization is highly efficient. Highly efficient. Maybe they're not as efficient as some of these that do the fancy AI algorithm kind of stuff. I don't know. But there's no reason why, if we did Medicare for All, that we couldn't fund it to make it more efficient than it already is. But it has always been the most efficient. Dealing with a lot of seniors, I would rather deal with Medicare most of the time than most of these insurance companies.
Absolutely.
I think that was the main point I wanted to make, because I feel like a lot of people forget it. And you all made excellent points about, what's coming out of your check. But I think doctors, if you talk to a lot of doctors, I think they would rather, I would love to hear the opinion of some doctors, because I think they would rather have Medicare for All than what they're dealing with now. And it's a racket. It is a for-profit racket. And like you said, they're racking up money like they're printing it, for God's sake. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
so
Bernie
that's all
Sanders,
I wanted to say.
I appreciate that. Thanks for being here, Hillbilly. I appreciate it very much.
Bye.
Bernie, here's the funny thing about this, right? As somebody who's, worked on a couple of Bernie's campaigns in my life and, helped him win the mayoral seat in Burlington and then run for Congress, he's been talking about this forever. So Medicare for All was the model that he used because of exactly what WV just talked about. It's the most efficient system we have. I don't know how it compares to the NHS or whatever else, but there's just no administrative cost. It's really about the patient care. Medicare for All, Medicare Advantage, what Medicare does, it negotiates on behalf of its policyholders to get lower drug prices. That's part of it. So during the Inflation Reduction Act, that's where a lot of the money went to also allow for more drugs to be lowered to Medicare recipients in general. So that's part of the model. It used to be considered extreme. Right now, it's a fundamental policy platform within the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. So what we've seen this evening is people who just didn't have all the information because the right, again, from a messaging perspective, has been able to convince their voting bloc that it's socialism. It's awful socialism. Meanwhile, the rest of the world has it. Westernized nations have it. They're healthier. They're living longer, although they don't have as good a food. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Erica.
Don't even. Our food, I have to say that this is important. Our food is not full of the crap that American food is full of. But part of that is because we have universal health care.
Exactly.
It's because our government is invested in the health of its people, because they don't want to put our taxes up in order to have to pay for better care for us. So some of the things that you can get on the NHS in my area, for example, they will prescribe gym memberships for people who, because it is cheaper for them to get people fit than it is to treat people for being incredibly unfit.
That's right. Good evening, Kelly. How are you tonight?
You can get spotted.
I'm well. How are you?
I'm fine. What's on your mind, Kelly?
I wanted to talk about your previous guest. She said she wanted to get a doctor's opinion. I happen to be one.
Excellent.
I work in healthcare in San Diego, and I cannot tell you how many hours per day I spend online trying to get pre-authorizations for MRIs or medications or whatever, and it is so frustrating. And I could use that time to see patients instead.
Provide better care, which I'm sure you want to do, which is why you got into it in the first place.
Correct. And
have you ever heard an argument against that makes sense?
Oh no, never. Either financially or fiscally or whatever. There's never
socially
an argument.
Right?
Correct.
Yeah. And I would imagine you see oftentimes, because our system, would you agree with this, doctor, that our system is reactionary more than proactionary?
Yes. No, we're reactionary for sure. That's big pharma and the insurance companies make money because they do not provide preventative care. Or if they do, they scale it back a lot. It's much easier to pay a lot of money for people who are sick and in the hospital, or to pay less money and have the patient have to pay that.
I'm curious, if you don't mind me asking, your opinion on the situation with the United Healthcare CEO. When you first heard about it, what was your reaction?
It's shocking, it's frustrating, but it's definitely a tipping point. I think it's going to be a tipping point, and it is, I believe, a match that lit the fuse.
I think you may be right about that. Doctor, thank you for joining us this evening. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I watch your lives all the time, and I really enjoy your facts over feelings.
I appreciate you, and have fun with those kids. It sounds like a fun Friday night for you. See you later.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Have a great night. Thank you.
You too. There you go. Right. I think that's kind of the point. So again, no economic. No, I'll say this every single day. Somebody wants to come up here with an economic argument against, or a social argument against universal health care, I'll delete my account and I'll do it on the spot.
I just want to prove to you that I am hydrating, Steve. Just
good for you. Is it
so you know.
beer or is it water or wine, Erica? That's the question. Okay.
It's Ribena.
Okay. Hi, Sean. How are you this evening?
Hello. Fine. How are you guys doing? I just wanted to come up real quick and. I'm sorry. Just wanted to come up real quick and say that this is the first time I've been on TikTok Live. The main thing I'm concerned about is it kind of goes without saying, but all this is for naught if there's too much money and profit to be made by all these people that just take it out of the system. They'll fight tooth and nail to prevent any of us from changing the system. We all know that universal health care is probably the best way to go, but until the system is systematically changed, we're all sitting here in limbo.
I don't disagree, but I guess the question is, how do we fix it, right? Like, what do we do? So, I'll give you what. So my thoughts are this, right? Obviously, it takes this, an overhaul of our system, which means we need to be electing progressives to Congress, which means we need to be electing officials who have courage to stand up to the lobby. We need to change the court so it's not stacked against, and instead it's stacked for our society. We need to overturn Citizens United. We need to consider outlawing lobbying, things like that, because the entire thing is about money. So we know, for example, that during the election season, these pharmaceutical companies spent nearly $500 million on advertising, primarily in red swing states, against things like access to gender affirming care for kids. So that it was hidden in an anti-trans agenda. Meanwhile, it's all part of the people who are making profit on the backs of American citizens who could use healthcare. So,
the thought kind of goes towards how do you change a message for half the populace that'll believe anything? Look at who got elected. It's the messaging and who has power for the messaging and who has money for the messaging. In my disheartenment at this last election is that, I was of the firm belief that if we present the information, the data, the facts, that people will come to the table now to say, hey, this is in my best interest to vote for this particular manner, and it's not. And I'm kind of living with the heartbreak of there's a lot of people who vote against their self-interest because they're just malicious or they're just ignorant, I guess.
Yeah, and I've come around on that a little bit. Sure, I think it's obvious and easy to say for those of us to say, that you voted against your best interest because they're the ones that are going to suffer the most when tariffs and inflation hit. But I also think, sadly, that there's a lot of people voting for the preservation of their whiteness. I think they see themselves in society. They've been told through our stories or books like The Birth Dearth about how the socioeconomic makeup and the literal complexion of America is changing. By 2040. Whites will no longer be the majority in our country, and I think that scares white people of privilege, and they will do anything they can to hold on to it, sometimes even without knowing it. But that's the scary part too. So people don't want to have that conversation, which again is why we need to be overfunding public education, so we can make sure we're teaching proper history.
Well, and learn how to debunk misinformation and disinformation. Like you to your point, Sean, like people It's not even about ignorance. It's about believing things that are easy to believe because it makes you feel better that there's got to be an enemy, and if you vote for this person, they're going to take care of whatever enemy they've told you need to perceive.
Yeah, I mean it's
It's a powerful cycle. It's a psyop.
yeah, it's identity politics, and I was talking to my wife, and part of it is, and I don't know everyone's stance or religion, but if you can believe in a religion, you can believe in an ideology that it isn't based on science or facts necessarily,
Good point.
and you can believe a message that it's kind of a lie.
And why do people overall, at least this is my personal opinion, people become they lean towards that belief because it does give a sense of I feel better having a faith of something, I like there's a common feel better about it. And that's what they've made people believe, that I can feel better if I blame people that I can look down on, if I can other people and feel superior and feel like a good, virtuous person because I'm going to vote this way, right? Like it's such a psyop because because they figured out how to tap into people's emotional convictions.
Yeah, it's I could go on, with my thoughts on this, but I just, as I start to think about it, I just get so wound up in the head that it's like, how could this happen? I mean, that's the disillusionment of we've been down through this story before for 4 years, and here we go again. Let's strap in. I'm of the FAFO point at this point in time. I think that myself and my wife will be fine and weather the storm, but I'm just so disheartened about how many people it's going to affect and hurt.
I just found this quote by Lyndon B. Johnson. I think this covers exactly what you were just talking about. He says, if you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best C man, he didn't use that word, but I think you guys know the word. I don't want to say it. So if you can convince the lowest white man that he's better than the best man of color, he won't know. I'm sorry, hold on 1 second. I want to finish this quote because it's great. He won't notice you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him somebody to look down on. He'll empty his pockets for you.
Yeah. It's disheartening.
Yeah.
I apologize
Thanks for
for
being
eating
here, Sean. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Sean. See you later.
All right. I don't know how to get out if you can bump me.
I got you. Again, if you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best man of color, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him somebody to look down on. He'll empty his pockets for you. We just witnessed that in the last 8 years of our politics.
And how many times have we seen that? Like unfit, ignorant people thinking that they are somehow genetically superior to like literal the world's best athletes. We see it all the time in these lives. All the time.
So Paul gave me a pep talk yesterday. So I thank you for that, my friend. I appreciate you. And then I challenged you and made your brain explode a little bit.
I never looked at it that way. I'm still chewing on it. It's like a piece of bubble gum.
Yeah.
It's kind of lost its flavor, but I'm still.
No, He will do that to you. He'll make you chew on some stuff. Yeah.
I think as far as, this whole thing with the CEO, and I know you and I talked about this, this really feels like the V is for Vendetta movie. It really, really has that feeling. And again, I'm with you. I absolutely do not condone what happened, but I also understand the sentiment behind it. But the reality is I think part of the reason we're here, is the economic inequality. But I think a large part of it over the last week, I think it's this idea of worshiping the American flag. Since we were little Timmy is sitting at a bar with a white cop being served by a white ice cream guy. That is the nuclear picture of what a lot of Americans have. And what they don't realize
like
is
postcard America, like postcard.
It is. But then black people weren't allowed to go in that ice cream parlor.
Right.
Black people weren't allowed to vote. Women couldn't vote. Women couldn't have a divorce.
Right.
They don't want to admit what we really are as a country. I mean, if you really look at it, it's never really been the greatest country in the world, and I live here.
Never.
And a lot of people are afraid to say that, and I don't know why that is. I mean, the Native Americans, that was a genocide. The Hawaiians, we stole their land. I mean, we brought black people over here, enslaved them. We've treated women like second-class citizens until the 1920s. And even after 248 years, with 50% of our population being women, we still haven't elected a woman. I mean, it's like we don't want to address the real issues as a society. And I think when you bring on the economic stuff, people just feel hopeless and they don't know what to do. But the only solution I can consider is we really have to put people in office that are not establishment politicians. And I think that was the original draw to Donald Trump, was that he wasn't a politician. That's what initially attracted people. Now what's attracted them is, oh, the misogyny is okay, the racism's okay, the sexism's okay. But in 2016, I think that's what it was. So I kind of feel like people like John Fetterman is kind of like what people want, people that are fighting. Because honestly, the one criticism I have, the big one, is they just don't fight. They always play nice. And it's tiring.
Yeah, and then just for those of you just tuning in, Paul and I went back and forth last night about this topic, and you used, like, well, we had this last time as a civil war, and I said, well, what's the Civil War of vigilante justice? And no, it probably wasn't. I mean, I'm not sure we landed on that yet, but I get your point.
Yeah.
And this. None of us know what's going to happen with this moment, but I do think it's interesting that we are continuing to talk about it, and these conversations shift in different directions. Now, did we get a convert to universal health care tonight? I don't know. Who the hell knows? But as long as people are willing to just take a step back and say, listen, I've been on this app for a while. I've certainly been accused of being divisive, and I can own that, sure. But I was calling out what I saw. I was trying to base it on what I saw. What I saw was exactly what's happening now.
But that's not divisive.
Yeah.
You're calling a spade a spade. Now, if they view that as being divisive, then maybe they shouldn't be a spade. But I don't view that as being divisive, in my opinion.
Exactly, but you know what I mean. I think the perception was from the right is that I would be deemed divisive. So my hope is that people can say, okay, let's put the blades down for just a second, take a step back, and understand that all of us, red, blue, Democrat, Republican, Independent, Libertarian, all of us are being owned and stepped on and dominated by the billionaire class.
It is.
It's corporate greed, corporate hierarchy, late stage capitalism, crony capitalism, all of it. It's right in front of us. It's all of us. Every single one of us is being impacted by it. And it's going to be a struggle. Right. It's going to be a struggle for the right, in particular MAGA, to realize that, because that's what they voted for.
But this is who they've always been, Facts. You have to understand that. Look,
that's true.
Not to go on a religious tangent. If you go back to the time of Jesus,
you would never go on a religious tangent. Come on.
I just want to give you one little nugget. When they had a choice between choosing the really good guy that helped people, that fed people, that cured people, that put the guard's ear back on, they chose Barabbas. They chose the insurrectionist that wanted to tear down Rome. They didn't want that Jesus guy. Even after they left Egypt and God parted the Red Sea, what did they do? They complained. Oh, I don't like the desert. They literally said, I wish I was back in Egypt as a slave because the living conditions were better. The problem with evangelicals is they don't want to be tested. They want everything to be comfortable. They don't like being told no. So God told them no, and Trump tells them yes. So that's why they go. That's why Trump is their God, because they don't want to live a life of discomfort. But the sad part of it is they've always chose the immoral path in life. I mean, this is who they've been. The only difference is 2,000 years ago, they didn't have MAGA hats. It's the same religious cult. It just is, sadly. This is who they've always been.
That's a good point. And I think, I'm not sure if you've heard this, but I want to read it real quick because I think it has a lot of relevance. Let me see if I can find it. Everybody, if you don't mind, please keep tapping and sharing. We have a gifting goal. We have a subscriber goal. If you guys don't mind helping us get there.
We
This
can
is
get to 200K, I think, if everybody power taps for about 60 seconds, beloveds. Pretty please. Thank you so much for this great conversation.
because as you said, Paul. First of all, everything points back to Reagan, but this is from the Reason
Yeah.
Reality Project.
Mm.
And it's how Reagan's policies and evangelical support shaped today's healthcare crisis. It's brief. Before the 1980s, health insurance wasn't about profits. Organizations like Blue Cross operated as nonprofits to ensure access to care. Their mission was simple: process claims so people could get the help that they needed. Then came Reagan. His presidency ushered in an era of deregulation and privatization, which we still see today from the right. Blue Cross transitioned to a for-profit model, and healthcare became a business, prioritizing shareholder returns over patient care. Premiums rose, claims were denied, and millions were priced out of life-saving treatment. Here's where it gets interesting. Reagan's rise to power wasn't just about economics. It was fueled by evangelical Christians.
Yep.
Focused on cultural issues like abortion, school prayer, they formed a powerful voting bloc that propelled him into office. While their focus was morality, their political support enabled policies that reshaped the economy, including the healthcare system we know today. The ripple effect: when religion drives politics, the consequences go far beyond social issues. Today's for-profit healthcare system is a product of that era. Maybe it's time we rethink the relationship between religion, politics, and public policy. Should healthcare be a human right instead of a business? Abso-fucking-lutely it should.
Don't forget that the evangelicals of the time, the MAGA 2,000 years ago, crucified Jesus in the name of God. This is who they've always been. They always justify violence. I mean, these religious people say that we're a Christian nation. When we had slaves, when black people couldn't sit in the same church, those people think that God has blessed white America. They don't view them as equals. They just
I wish
don't.
we had somebody on our panel that teaches religion that we could get her
Oh,
opinion
hi,
on.
sorry, I wasn't paying attention. What's going on?
I wish.
It's okay.
I was hydrating.
No, we were just discussing about how, where Paul's the intersectionality of religion and politics, and how the healthcare system prior to Reagan used to be based surely on patient care, and since then, because of evangelical influence under the guise of Christianity and morality, it's now turned into a for-profit business, and people's lives are suffering because of it.
Yeah.
So Christian of
Well,
them.
I have to say, it's not just very Christian of them, it's very American of them. Because Christians in the rest of the world don't really act that way.
No.
I hate to say it, like, US Christianity is so far removed from Christianity in Europe that, I mean, the country that I live in is a Christian country, right? We have bishops in Parliament, and yet we are a vastly less religious country than the US. In the last census, less than 50% of British people said that they were Christian. And the numbers of people who are saying, not that they don't believe in anything, but that they don't subscribe to a religion, is the fastest growing group here. But the Church of England, our national church, is nowhere near the conservative, kind of conservative backbone of the country that, like, the evangelicals are or the Southern Baptists are. It's just so different. There is no appetite in this country for the church to get involved in anybody's medical care, for example. There's just no appetite. 95% of British people are happy with our AB rules as they are. Weirdly, Nigel Farage, leader of the most terrible political party in the country, I'm saying that for the benefit of Fenris, who voted for them in the comments, suggested the other day, out of nowhere, that Parliament debate the AB rules. Out of nowhere. Well, except it isn't, because he's Trumpy's best buddy. So, well, he thinks he is. But yeah, it's just religion plays a very little part in most people's daily lives in this country. The vast majority of people, like, no part.
Isn't it funny how we escape British rule under the guise of freedom of religion, freedom from religious
I'm
persecution,
telling
and yet
you.
our
I
society has turned the other way around.
I know I
So
talk about this a lot, but I never realized how unfree we really were until I lived in the UK or out of here, you know, but yes, UK, I can speak, I
Well,
can confirm Erica's sentiment. It is a different vibe. Religion
yeah.
plays a different role in society.
Can I say also though about that whole escaping from persecution thing? Historians now are saying that it wasn't because this country this country wasn't practicing the right kind of Christianity for the people that left. That was what it was about. It wasn't that this country was super strict. It was that it wasn't the kind of Christianity that those people wanted to practice. Um,
Puritanism.
and and so they were puritanical, and that
yeah,
wasn't the fashion at the time. And so
right.
they left to be able to practice the kind of Christianity that they wanted to practice, which was far stricter than the kind of Christianity being practiced here at the time.
Well, and I
Paul,
I
thanks for
think
jumping in, brother. Go
yeah.
ahead, finish up.
No, go. Let me say. Can I say one last thing?
Yeah,
I
go for it.
think that there is a difference between being a person of faith and religion. I think a lot of these evangelicals that are call themselves Christians, in my opinion, they're no different than modern day Pharisees. They want to play God instead of follow God. They want to force people to do God's will. They want to take away free will and play God. That's what they are. There's no compassion. There's no empathy. There's
None.
no turning the other cheek. It's all own the libs. You're a sinner. You're going to hell. Repent, repent, repent. It's all hellfire and damnation. There's no compassion in it at all.
None.
Well, and it's
None.
specifically intrinsic in the Christian religion that you have to go convert people to Christ because that's the only way, right? Like it's that
Yeah.
superiority complex on top of
Yep.
all that is we're going to
Yeah.
save all of them because we should because we're better because we believe.
Yep.
Paul, brother,
All right,
thanks
bud.
a lot. Reach
Later.
out anytime. We can have more brain melting conversations. I appreciate you. See you
See ya,
later.
buddy.
See you,
Goodbye.
Paul. Oh, those brain melters. I know what brain melting conversations with you are like. And let me tell you, I
Yeah,
wouldn't trade it for
they
the
are.
world. I love
They are
it.
brain melting for sure.
My brain feels like a chicken breast when we're done.
Eric and I've had those brain melting conversations too. Crazy greedy billionaire. How are you today?
Hello, I'm from Canada. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
So I have a unique perspective on this.
Okay.
I think that, when Trump used to say, oh, like he can't be bought. Well, that's because Trump was the one who did the buying. Trump would be the one bribing the politicians. And now Trump doesn't have to bribe the politicians because he runs the White House. So rather than having to bribe the president at the time, Trump doesn't have to bribe anyone anymore because now he runs the White House. He's the government, Trump. So it's like it's bad enough that at one point the billionaires had control over the government by bribing the politicians. Now the billionaires are the politicians. They don't have to bribe anyone anymore. So that's my take
Right,
on it.
but he's still
Oh, they
highly
still bribe him.
leveraged. Yeah, but he's still highly leveraged. I mean, any way that he can get to make money. Think
If
about
you have a
the
billion,
most
you can get
recent
favor.
policies they have. If you got yeah, exactly. You got $1 billion, you can invest in our country, and we'll remove all deregulations. Lately, now it's part of the inauguration. If you got $1 million, you can come to my inauguration. I mean, he's still taking bribes. He's still
Or if you're
taking
one of the
bribes.
poor people who think I care about you, you can buy my cologne, my stanky cologne, and my dumb shoes and
Yeah,
my ugly NFT
essence,
watch.
essence
Or
to ass crack.
You know
God
what's
can
most
imagine what
sad?
that smells
There's
like.
literally homeless military veterans sleeping in the cold.
Yeah.
And none of those homeless military veterans could never sleep in one of Trump's mansions, 20 mansions. Like, and so like he doesn't Trump when Trump sleeps at night, he doesn't lose sleep over homeless military veterans. He doesn't lose sleep over any other severe issues like clean drinking water. Trump, all he thinks about is how to become a trillionaire. Trump's goal is literally make himself from a billionaire to a trillionaire. So I was joking, right? I'll land my plane here. I was saying, have you heard Trump's "I Have a Dream" speech? It's like, I have a dream. I want to one day become a trillionaire. That's literally Trump's dream, is just to make himself richer and everyone else poorer. That's his dream. So
Yeah, I mean, you're probably right about that in more ways than one.
I think he
But
cares less about money than he does about having just the power to do whatever the fuck he wants and being a toddler. Like, I really think he just likes being who he is, and he just likes causing chaos because he doesn't have the courage to face his own demons.
thanks for being here, crazy greedy billionaire. Appreciate you very much. You have a good night. See you later.
Oh,
It's
can I,
go ahead. Sorry, Erica.
oh, I just wanna let everyone know I am now. You know this already, facts. I am now what am I? I'm a fascist pagan. Just so that everyone knows, I'm now a
That's right.
fascist pagan.
And
That's the
apparently, there's a
next.
questionnaire I have to fill out to see if I can, you know.
Yeah,
I
as
mean,
I said,
I
I have an opening. Facts.
Hey now.
hey now.
See, I missed my cue that time.
This is Facts After Dark. We're open
Hey,
to
fish.
It's hey Fish, how are you?
Hey, fish.
Hey, mofos.
Mofo,
All right.
what's up?
What up, Mopo?
MAGA are zombies. They're what, 22% of the voting public? Is that
If
right?
that.
About right?
If that.
Okay.
Yep.
They need to stop simping the billionaires. Billionaires are the enemy. We're turning into an oligarchy. All these things you're saying is right. Erica, you don't even know
I don't think I think the turning into has already happened.
Yeah.
I don't even what?
You don't even go here, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I don't. Fish was in my messages earlier asking me about NICE, which is a clinical board in the UK.
Well, yeah, and that kind of brings me to what I wanted to talk about quickly, and I know I want to get out of here quickly too, but Facts, you lit a fire under my ass, literally. I went through the election season, and I got into this political TikTok thing and followed people and watched debates and enjoyed this and that, but one thing I didn't even know what the definition was of apathy. And it's something I'm learning. It's something which is normal to us here in this country, is to be enraged and excited about something but not do anything about it. So
true.
For once, I realized I can either move out of the country or do something about it. I'm not too old. I'm 45 years old. I need to stop thinking I can't make a difference with anything. So I'm educating myself on the healthcare system. I didn't know all about this stuff. I'm trying to figure out what could unite us. We're talking the other left and right, and I think this Luigi guy did point something out. There's not many Americans that can't say the healthcare business hasn't fucked me over in one way or another, or someone I know, or someone has died. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people die every year from healthcare. Either they don't have it in this country. They don't have it, they can't afford it, or they get denied.
Correct.
So I'm going to be collecting stories. It has nothing to do with if you're liberal or if you're Republican. I'm going to collect as many stories as I can about these people that have no voices. Yes, it's sad that Brian, what's his name, lost his life. I don't like when people lose their lives. I don't support vigilante justice. But he gets a story on the front page. He has a story about his kids and his family, and it's very sad that someone lost their life. But guess what? All these people that lost their lives from getting health care denied and are helpless, they don't have a story out there. No one knows about them. We need to talk about this. We need to educate each other. This woman that came on tonight, that realtor lady, thought what most people think is that universal health care means I'm not going to be covered for this or that. When I watched a movie today, a video today that's from PBS, and I learned about all the different countries' universal health care, and realized that's not a fact at all. Everything's covered. There's health care out there in most countries where you pay more on taxes, but you don't pay for anything else, and you get covered for anything. If you want to go get new boobs, that's on you. But I just
not
want to
for
say
long, because we're not going to affirm gender affirming care, which that would be.
That too. Right. Yeah, exactly. But everybody do your research. We have a fucking phone in our hand that can find anything. I downloaded ChatGPT, and I drive truck all day, obviously. And I just talk to it. You can talk to it and have a conversation, and it can teach you things. It's use the technology. If you're not educating yourself, you are an idiot. You are literally a lazy zombie idiot. And if you just want to come up here and put shit in the comments about why you crying, you're the people we don't want to talk to. But you know what? We do need to unite, and when there's going to be a way to do it, and we need to start doing it. And every single person can go to their lawmaker and tell them you want universal health care. There's no reason we shouldn't have it. It's a fucking right.
You're right.
We have all this we are the best country in the world, except for healthcare, where we have the 47th. What is it? The death
outcome.
Yeah, 47th outcome, and we pay the most. We pay the most, and we have the worst care for it. But
yeah, I'll push back on the one thing that you said. We're not the best country in the world. There's lots of reasons, and that just happens to be one. I mean, that's one. So
We could be.
Here's my comment to you, Fish. If you're going to do the work, and you're going to start to compile this kind of stuff, I write for a living, and humbly speaking, I'm damn good at it. So if you want to have this conversation, we want to put something to, if we want to publish something, if you want help, you let me know. I'm there.
I'm going to reach out. Yeah, and that's why I want to say that, but I didn't want to, take over your time here. Last thing I want to say is a couple of weeks back, your mom's birthday came up. I wanted to tell you that she'd be proud of you, man. You're making a difference here. You're on fucking TikTok as a 47, 53. How old are you? You're an old dude.
29.
You're not that old.
57.
But no, you're all making a difference. And I'm sorry, Amy, I'm not super familiar. I haven't watched a lot of your stuff. I haven't caught the After
It's
Dark.
okay. I'm just here on Fridays with Facts. So it's
Nice
very
to meet
lovely
you.
to talk to you. I am 54, so Gen X here too. So yeah. Same page.
Erica, I know you, obviously, and you guys are doing something, so keep doing it. And in between, when you get the MAGA people and it's funny and it's content and it gets other people interested, that's fine. But we all got to fucking do something because billionaires are literally running our country, and we're just sitting by watching it. And with that, get me the fuck out of here.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate you very much. Opera stands. You pulled some content together, and I'll put pen to paper if necessary.
I'm also Gen X, but only for God's sake.
You're marginal.
I'm Gen X, but only just.
Oh, this is for Erica. You brought Fenris up.
I don't want to talk to Fenris. He's a dick.
Really?
Well, that's nice of you.
Do you not want to talk to Fenris?
I've never insulted you in my life.
No, but you are
Thank you for the obviously nice welcome.
You just sat in the comments and lied.
No, I just answered your points that were to me wrong. If that's a crime, I apologise.
Wait, Fenris, did you disagree with her points, or were they wrong?
Some of them, yes. Some I do agree with.
So it's not a question of right or wrong. It's a question of whether or not it's a question of whether you agree or disagree. Right?
Facts will attest to the fact I have never said that about anybody coming up into the box before, but I've encountered you enough times.
I've never insulted you.
I don't care.
Oh, right, okay,
so
nice.
So here's a question. Here's just a bigger question for everybody: is it an insult by the person who says it, or is it an insult by the person who receives it?
Well, Fenris was just saying in the comments that Nigel Farage is for free speech.
Yeah.
And if you agree with free speech, then Fenris, you wouldn't be offended by me saying that.
No, I just don't think it's nice behaviour.
But if
know.
you want free speech, which is what you're claiming to want, then the whole point of free speech is that you don't care whether someone else thinks it's nice or not.
But you can still call someone out for bad speech. Doesn't mean I don't agree with it.
Can you tell me what you think free speech is, Fenris?
It's base. It's the right to offend and criticise.
Can you name a country in the world that has completely free speech?
Well, you've got it in the US enshrined by your laws.
No, the free speech in the US is free speech against who?
There's no against anybody. It's a shared responsibility.
No, there is.
It's a shared resource.
No.
It's like saying, who's the air for?
Facts. Who is it that you're allowed to speak badly about without consequence in the US?
The government.
The government.
Just the government, not other people.
You can speak badly. You've spoke badly about me, and there's no repercussion.
And I'm in the same country as you.
Yeah.
And I can call you that. as long as I'm not
You
calling
called
you
me
that,
out, so I just
as
answered
long
your
as I'm not
question.
calling you that because of the color of your skin or your religion or your gender or any or a disability, if I'm just calling you it because I think you are it and it's not based on any of those other things, then I'm allowed to say it.
If that's your policy, then
It's
you
not
have to
my
stand by that.
policy, it's the laws of the country that you and I live in.
Then how come you, like I said, you can walk down the street and insult Christians, but you can't insult Muslims?
You can't insult anyone on the basis of
Yes,
their
you
religion.
can.
No, you
You've been
can't.
doing it
It's
tonight.
religion is a
People have been doing
protected.
it tonight.
They're not in the UK, Fenris.
You
We're
are.
in the U.S.
I
though,
haven't been in.
Fenris.
Who did I insult because they were Christian, Fenris?
So you've just admitted that the UK has non-free speech laws against free speech.
No,
You've just
but
admitted that.
right, but that's not again. That speech
But
isn't
that's all
against the
I
government.
said, that it's
Excuse
not
Fenris,
me,
you let
true.
her finish the sentence,
Nigel
Fenris.
please.
Farage wants
Fenris,
that.
stop. Stop talking. Let her finish,
Again,
please.
that speech isn't free. Your
Apparently,
freedom of
men in the
speech.
UK don't let women finish either.
Yeah, I
It's
know. This
It
is
seems to
this
be
is
a global
why.
thing.
Weirdly, this is why I said what I said to start with. It's almost like he's proving my
You're
point.
proving the point.
Yeah. But this is the
Well, that's free speech.
the thing is again,
I'd like to start
religion is
again, actually, if I can. I'd like to start again. Fenris,
okay.
what did you have for dinner? What did you have for dinner this evening?
Sorry?
What did you have for dinner?
Well, what did I have for dinner?
Nobody gives a shit.
Sorry about that, Steve. I never
That's
do
okay.
that.
That's okay. That's all. You don't have to apologize.
You don't ever have to apologize for having
But
feelings.
it's just the thing is he doesn't understand what free speech is and what the potential consequences of us not having hate speech laws are. And I will protect the right of a Christian not to be spoken, not to have hate speech against them, the same way as I would protect any other group not to be spoken about in a hateful way. I never speak about, well, apart from individuals, I never speak about entire groups hatefully. I just don't. And if I do, it's because of their opinion and not a characteristic.
Amy Dawn, can I call Donald Trump a twice impeached, four-time indicted, sexually abusing fraudster, felon, piece of shit?
Absolutely can and often.
Yeah, I mean, so Fenris, the Constitution affords me that courtesy. So, thank you. Hi, Moth. How are you?
Hey, Moth.
I almost forgot I requested.
How was the concert?
It got postponed because there was a potential for freezing rain, and of course, since they canceled it, nothing happened. So,
as is how it goes in Husker Nation most times when that happens.
Yes,
You know, it's getting
yes.
weird because now because my daughter's driving, obviously, which of course scares the crap out of me every time she leaves the house. She'll check the forecast the night before, and there'll be like a dusting. She's like, "Do you think school will be canceled?" I'm like, no.
No, they never cancel it when it actually is
That's why you've got a Subaru.
They only cancel it when they think it might do something, and then nothing happens.
And then when it actually does blizzard, all the buses are running, no problem.
Yeah, I mean that's just been my life in Nebraska the whole 38 years I've lived here. So.
You're an
Out of an abundance of caution. Yes.
I mean, Amy is very well acquainted,
Very well. That's why I live in Arizona. We don't have to shovel sunshine here, and we don't scrape our windshields.
You know what this is, AD?
I know.
I lived in Arizona for about 6 months, but I was up in the mountains, and there was a lot of snow. So that was I was in a very different part of Arizona.
Nebraska is a toxic relationship that I had to end.
Arizona
and I are committed for life.
I've lived in 5 or 6 countries and never ever have I lived anywhere where we've had a lot of snow. Not ever.
Hold my beer.
Yeah.
Makes me a bit sad. I'd like a lot of snow.
Put it this way, when I moved to England,
you can have mine when it gets here, Erica. I'll mail it to you.
Experiencing winter in England, I was like, oh, this is really okay. Okay, you can have winter and not have 8 feet snowdrifts. Cool.
No, our winter is just grey and drizzly.
That's it. Mm-hmm.
So
I was just going to say something completely inappropriate, but I won't. So, hi, Moth. What's
well,
on your mind?
it is facts after dark.
That is
Well,
true.
I wanted to join, and I wanted to kind of piggyback off. I believe it was Fish that was talking about, uniting and things like that. And I was actually just having a really interesting conversation with one of my friends about all of this just a couple of nights ago, and I thought I would bring it to some of the best people that I know to kind of get your thoughts on the matter. So, my friend and I were both on the same side of the situation, but there were some interesting points. You know, I think a lot of us would like to see a revolution. I know that you do. I know you would like to see a revolution happen. I know a lot of us would.
A societal change, yes, no doubt.
Yes.
A big one.
The thing that I'm kind of struggling or grappling with in this is from a logistical standpoint. Yes, the left and the right, everybody, we do need to unite and come against, even if it's just for a little bit, for this one thing, right? I mean, that's the only way it's going to work. It's not going to happen as long as we're all this infighting, all of this going back and forth and at each other's throats.
Right.
But then you have this on the back of, we just got through the holidays, and all through the holidays we're talking about not breaking bread with people who voted a certain way and not coming together.
I know.
And so I struggle with, we need to come together for this one thing, but at the same time, and especially being a trans person, it's hard for me to separate the logistical side of, yes, we do need to unite, and then that emotional side of, but that means uniting with people who feel like I shouldn't exist, even if it is for this greater cause. It's kind of hard for me to come to terms with that. So I thought I would bring that to you and kind of bounce that off of you and see what your thoughts are.
I think that's an incredibly important point, and I've thought about that a lot, believe me, since I said that. And it's fair to call me out on that, and I really, really appreciate that. And this is kind of where I go right to this. So I read this great book. It's called Tribe. And the book it's all about human history in the various tribes that we've all been a part of, good or bad. And they use one really poignant example that really kind of got me thinking about this concept. It's during the Blitzkrieg in London, when there were various factions within the city of London that would have never, ever, ever got along. Under no circumstance would they have ever got along until the Blitzkrieg. So they were all forced to go down into the subway, into the underground, basically, to form a new tribe that was based on survival. They worked as a community to survive. As soon as the war was over, their tribe disbanded and they went back to their warring factions. That's the analogy that worked in my head when I thought this through. Like, okay, has there been any historical examples? I'm sure there's many others, but that was the one that stuck in mind. And again, I don't want to be a hypocrite because I've been saying I don't want to break bread with fascists and racists and transphobes and homophobes and sexists and all that stuff. And that's still very, very true. But, or I should say, and we are getting screwed by the billionaire class. The only thing that we have not done as a society in our history is to unite under one cause to try to change the society and take it back for the people. That's something that we've never done. So you're right to call that out, Moth. You're absolutely right. That's where I go. And I don't know, again, you guys know me, I'm an idealist, right? I'm a bit of an idealist. So is that moment, or could that moment of commonality and coming together and sort of creating a new tribe, then perhaps give people who have been opposed to your existence, Moth, an opportunity to look at you as who you are, this amazing person, as opposed to being fear-mongered into thinking that you're somebody else.
I was literally just going to say that kind of that point, Steve, because I will offer you this, Moth. And here's where, and I love that you've brought this up because I've been wrestling with it too. So I'm sure we all have. And but part of me, and I've said it on these lives, Steve and I have talked, like there's always a part of me that I feel like at our core, we're better than that. And though there's more people who can be moved than who really just are never going to be reached, right? Now, I don't think the labor on coming together, I don't think that. I need them to come our way. I need them to understand this is what we're talking about, because yeah, universal healthcare is indicative of what we want, which is human rights. Healthcare is a human right. And so if cognitively we can get people to shift, like what was her name, Steph, that was up here, if we can get people to shift just on this one thing, that's a crack in their broken brain to maybe get in some critical thinking of, gosh, if I can have empathy around this issue, which is a collective, this would be good for all of us. I can begin to see how maybe socialism isn't the enemy I've been told it is. Maybe allowing people to exist as they are. Maybe I don't have to fear an enemy to make sure I'm okay and protected from whatever perceived enemy, right? Like if we can get just one topic to shift, that opens the door, and they get to know people who feel differently, but you can find some common ground on one thing. You start to see each other as human again, and they see you as a human instead of something other than them. And that, I don't know if that happens quickly. I don't know how it even happens, but I feel like this could be where we can come together, because really, I think that could move us societally in a direction where we are better, happier, collectively.
I want to address something, Cheryl Buckruff. You said this, and you're right, Cheryl. I am not in a marginalized community. I'm coming at this from a place I am well aware of my privilege, absolutely, and I respect the fact that you're calling me out on that. I get it. All I'm saying is, if we've reached this point where it's violence and it doesn't work, then where do we go? And Moth, I hope you understand that I get it, and I don't want to be. If it sounds hypocritical for me, I get that, and I'll own it. But I think I'm just looking at this as a potential opportunity. It may not work. Again, I'm an idealist. It may be fantasy. Who knows? But I would never expect anyone in any marginalized group to extend a hand. The hand would have to be extended to you. Again,
I definitely don't think that it's hypocritical coming from you. I mean, from everything that I know about you and the time that I have been very blessed to know you, I don't think that you ever speak for us or try to speak over us. You know, you're a true ally in my mind. I'm sure there's people that disagree, and that's their right. Also, I really apologize if you can hear my horse slobbering away at his
It's
water
okay.
bowl.
Mine's at my feet chewing on something. It's okay. I'm good.
My horse.
No
I'm like,
textbooks
wait,
tonight.
you got a horse?
Well, I
Same
mean,
thing,
he's
Great
a
Dane.
9-month-old, 150-some pound Great Dane, so he's
Mine is
he's
keeping
halfway.
my horse is keeping my feet warm in his good self.
I mean, Vash is only about half grown, so you know. But no, I don't think that it's yeah. He's still got a ways to go. He's a big boy. His dad was about 250 pounds, I
It's
think.
a Great Dane. Yeah, you got some great fun ahead of you.
Yeah.
But
So what are your thoughts on this, though, Moth? I mean, I get it from your perspective. We all, I mean, if we're all like, we have this theory in, basic economics, like all boats rise in a situation like this. And I know it's easier for, again, a person of privilege to be able to say that, but we should demand at a baseline universal health care, and we're never going to get it if the infighting remains, right? We're never going to get it. And that's why in the billionaire class, I've said this yesterday and it may not have landed properly, but while we're fighting with each other, they're laughing at us. The collective billionaire, multimillionaire corporate CEOs, heads of state, they're just laughing at us because they're going to continue to throw red meat, sadly. And it impacts your community. Obviously, it doesn't impact mine. I'm safe wherever I go. You're not. And that's the challenge. And I would never be, I don't want to be insensitive to that. I get it. We got to do something. I just don't know what it is. I don't want to be apathetic, to Trucker's point.
Right. Yeah,
And
I
I
just
would hope if people have access to universal health care, they also have access to unlimited mental health care to come treat some of that phobia and bigotry, that all that rejection and judgment wound pain that they have inside of them is causing them to be like that, right? Like, it's overall going to make us a happier society. And so I hope that they can then also see things to where there's coming. Don't get me wrong, people need to be accountable for causing harm. Yes. And I do not expect anyone of any marginalized community to do the emotional labor of coming into, leaning into anyone who has hurt them and harmed them. Not even a little bit. In fact, sit this one out. We got this. Those of us who haven't had to deal with that, right? That being said, if we can get this, there is a net benefit of coming together over this to push the needle more so that we can continue to evolve as a society in a way that does accomplish the goals of what those of us who are left and progressive are talking about, which is we can all just be collectively better together.
yeah, for sure. And I do agree when you said that, they need to come more this way instead of, the other way around. It's just how do you make that happen? And then for me, like when my friend and I were having this conversation, she's a cis YT woman, and I mean she's part of the LGBTQ community, but she's on, since she's not trans, kind of on a different side of the spectrum of it than I am. And so that brought some interesting nuances into the conversation as to, we know that it calls for unification, but how do you unite and unify with people who have either caused you harm or have wanted to cause you harm or voted for people who want to cause you harm? So for me, and how I explain it to my therapist all the time, like when we talk about, because I have anxiety and agoraphobia and things like that, I always refer to my brain as there's the rational portion of my brain, and then there's the, oh my God, everything is on fire side.
The amygdala,
yes. So in this conversation, there's the logistical standpoint of, okay, there's a common enemy. We all need to come together to fight against this common enemy. And then the other part is like, but these are people who don't even see me as human. To them, I'm not a human.
I think what's difficult about it, Moth, as well, is maybe in the past we could perhaps comfort ourselves with the fact that the people that vote for these people, live in the middle of nowhere and have never left their town or their state. But we know from having talked to people on these lives that a great deal of people who live in cities alongside people who are different to them, whatever that difference may be, still voted for Donald Trump, even though they know people who his policies would do and are even friends with. How often do the people that come up, tokenize someone that they know who is a member of a marginalized community to try and say, look, I'm not a bad person. Right. My brother is this, or, I have a friend who is, and yet those people, they don't even care enough about the people that are in their own lives to vote for those people's rights, let alone people who they don't even know.
And at the end of the day, it's always the marginalized communities that are asked to save us from ourselves, and those of us of privilege have never done the work.
Ultimately, I don't think it's your fight, Moth, and I love that you'd be willing to fight it. But those of us who have the privilege, me as a cis person, I'm going to fight for you always. Steve, as a cis man, is always going to fight for you, and he's going to fight for me as a woman, right? Like it's not the emotional labor of the marginalized communities to do the fighting to gain that. It's our job to do that, right? So I don't know how we accomplish our job. I can only draw the parallel for me.
That's a good clarifier. That's a good clarifier. Actually.
Right. Like I can only draw the parallel for me in being the mother of Black children, being the partner of a Black man, like living, my family that I love are marginalized community, having a daughter who has special needs, right? Like marginalized communities, I am not in one except for being a woman. That's the only relation I have there. Everything else about me makes me privileged. And so my responsibility is to be the one who is actively anti-racist. And I have to take on the emotional labor because I'm the one in the system that benefits from the system. So it's my job and I'm going to do that. And if we have these conversations, those of people who look like Steve and me and Erica too, and cis people who can fight for people who are different with the people who think that they're better than those other people, right? We have to be the ones doing that. And we need to have a way to get into their brain. This very well may be it, because this is an issue where we can bring it home to people themselves. I can show you, just like Steve did today. Hey, I can show you how you, right? Because that lady that was up here was concerned about her taxes. She was concerned how somehow it was going to cost her more money if she supported this thing. Not everything else. Like that was her number one concern, is how is it going to affect me? Okay, I can accept that not everybody is as altruistic as I am about, I'm going to do what's best for the common, for like all of us, right? I have a different viewpoint there. I can accept that. Okay, so I'm going to make it so you can figure out how it is going to impact you. And so if we can bring that to people, this may be the topic we can do that on, right? We are not billionaires. And if we let them run things, they're just going to run things to keep playing their games. And we're going to be down here fighting. It's a whole, watch the show Silo. It's very dystopian, but it's so many parallels in that show about just how the levels of the silo are literally the levels of in the book Caste. There's another thing. Like there's so many intersections here. And I'm kind of thinking this, to our point tonight, I'm kind of thinking this could be, if we start talking about it and messaging it, right? This could be the messaging that gets people who normally wouldn't be listening to be like, whoa, wait a minute. You mean these rich people are getting off scot-free? Meanwhile, I'm over here suffering because I can't go to the doctor? No. Yeah. It's not what I want. So, it's a big topic, and best believe, whatever we do, we're going to continue to fight for the people that can't or shouldn't have to. Not that you can't, but you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to.
Right, but I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, I will still fight. I'll come together with who I need to come together with to get it done, and not, if not for me, then for the fact that I have 3 kids, one of which is I have a trans daughter, and she's just about to finish high school, and she is excited for her future about wanting to start hormone therapy and changing her name and everything like that. And I'm going to fight for her. I have to do it for her.
And so am I.
Not for myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to fight for my kids' friends, everybody that I love, including this family. Yeah, for sure.
Martha, just in general, I mean, I know this is a very generalized statement, but and I know it's only been a few days. I mean, what's been the sentiment in your community about this topic? Meaning that commonality, the alignment of resources and allyship against the greater enemy. It may be too soon to know the answers to that yet. Do you have any kind of sense, or has it been too soon for you to even have experiences or conversations with people?
I'm moving into the other room because my fiance and the kids are just getting home. It's our weekend with the kids, so the dogs are going crazy because there was a knock on the door. I haven't really seen. I've been kind of staying away from some social media just for my own mental health.
Sure.
Mainly, I've just been seeing a lot of fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. of
That's been
what's
the
to come.
overarching sentiment of many of my clients,
Can I
many
just
of
get
whom.
more thoughts from that? Sorry, AD, just want to finish
Oh
that
yeah, no,
thought.
go ahead.
Go ahead,
I was just interjecting.
Yeah, no, that's just been kind of the only thing that I've seen. I mean, like I said, I haven't seen anything else, but for sure, just the fear of, you know, are we going to have to live in stealth? Are we going to have to detransition to stay safe? You know, or do we just say fuck it all and keep being who we are and, you know, malicious compliance the hell out of it?
I vote for
You
option
know?
3. That's just me.
Like, okay, you want me to use the restroom of the gender that I was assigned at birth? All right.
I want you to use what you want to use,
I'm
my
a 6
friend.
foot tall, like, dad bod dude with facial hair and everything else. I guess.
I'll meet you there.
Like, I guess that's where I'll go. You're not gonna like it.
Yeah.
This is the
I'm gonna
point where
get
you didn't think through this policy real good, did you?
Yeah.
yeah. Like,
well,
I mean, you know, if that's what you want to see marching into the women's restroom, me at 6 foot tall with all my tattoos and piercings and everything and facial hair, just be like, here I am. This is where you told me to go, so I'm here to pee.
I appreciate your sincerity and your honesty on this conversation, because again, it's been in my head ever since I talked about that this week, and that's why I just think this is such an important topic. And I'm so grateful that we've had so many conversations about a variety of topics in this space, because there's a lot of smart people and caring people who want to have these conversations. But it does bring up another question, right? It's like, yes, I think we can all agree, right, at that the billionaire class and the corporate cronyism is the enemy, is the collective enemy. But to AD's point, and to my point, and to your point, Moth, there's people that are just don't have been fighting. I mean, I think about Black women. I think members of your community, Moth. I think about everybody every single time when the favor is asked from us privileged white people to say, "Hey, can you show up again? Can you show up again? Can you show up again, please?" And they continue to show up, and we continue to not. So at some point, it's just like, figure this out. You guys who keep asking, we're done. At some point, there has to be some shift. At some point, because again, apathy, laziness, whatever it might be, nothing is going to change unless we can start to realize that this is the common enemy.
I think we might start seeing that shift happen because, I mean, you know, we see a lot of things where we're like, oh, this is the tipping point and everybody's rallying together for this one thing. But we're seeing a lot more conversations in the wake of, this whole situation with Luigi. And, just to kind of echo off of you, I don't condone what he did. I understand why.
Yeah.
I understand the reasons.
Yeah.
But I don't condone it. But it's really opening up a lot of different conversations that need to be had. And I think maybe we are starting to see that tipping point. Maybe it is finally coming. Maybe it is finally happening. And
I wonder what would happen to those conversations if news came out that he, for some reason, we find out he was direct. I don't think he was, that there's no that. But if there was some story about how he was harmed, right, to the point of, was it justified? Would we be like, well, maybe it was more justified? It's just like, no, it can't be. However, we do understand the sentiment behind how much pain we are in systemically as a country.
It's a very nuanced conversation. It's a very nuanced topic, for sure.
Oh, it is.
And that's probably a massive, massive understatement.
No, I think that's a good way to describe it. There's so many. I mean, just the evolution of the conversations this evening. I had mentioned yesterday, and I'll apologize again. I was probably quick-fingered in kicking people yesterday who said it was justified. And as I've thought about that, again, I'll never say that it was justified because it was vigilante justice. If we're going to say that that's where we resort to, then again, not to a broken record, if that's where we're at now, then there's no turning back from that.
But you understand why people are saying it.
Absolutely. Absolutely, no doubt
I
about
get
it.
the
I completely
sentiment.
Well,
understand
and
why
that's the
people are saying
beauty. That's the beauty of being human. Is
exactly.
you evolve. It can even be an overnight thing. I
Minute by
think you
minute
do a
in my head
fantastic.
sometimes.
No, I think you do a
We also
fantastic
we
job.
also have a justice system that will no doubt the process will that he needs to go through will and he will pay a price for that act, no doubt, right? So
I wish I had
now
more
we
faith
have
in
to
that,
now
but
we have
sure.
I mean, yeah, I mean, we hopefully there is some belief in the rule of law still in this country. I know it's fleeting, but
I
I
mean,
guess
I've even talked with some people who say that it was justified or that they do back. I mean, even in conversations I've had with my fiance, he supports all of this, and I don't condone it, but like I said, I understand the reasons,
Mm-hmm.
and I've had conversations with other people as well who are like 100% team Luigi on everything, and like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's best to have conversations and understand where they're coming from. Like why do you feel the way you do? Why are you 100% on that side?
I mean, if you think
Um,
about it, it's almost a form of collective reactive abuse, right? Like you can only
yeah.
get so much until you lash back. Not that again, it was justified, but they understand the human process can only take so much.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm going to say exactly what I said earlier, which is um effectively both of those people in different ways, the victim of that particular crime and the perpetrator of that crime were had both in their lives in one way or another been guilty of the same thing. And being guilty of something by this, I don't understand why, as societies, we're so quick to let people off when their crime is committed by the stroke of a pen rather than by a weapon of some kind. I mean, we always say the pen is mightier than the sword.
Mm.
And in this case, he's potentially, he's potentially guilty of many more unalivings than the person that did it to him. And again, it doesn't mean it's justified. And I'm not a violent person and would never advocate for anyone to be a violent person. But I also couldn't effectively sign other people's unaliving warrants, which is kind of what he was doing. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of the same as, with the families of some of the women who have lost their lives because of the overturn of Roe v. Wade. If they went out and unalived some of the people responsible for that overturning, would we, right? Like, I don't know. You're guilty by association by the fact that your actions, I don't know.
Or if your child was harmed in a horrible way and you premeditated a response to that, which meant you took the life of the person who did it, would that be considered justified by society? I think a lot of people might say it was.
Mm-hmm.
A lot
Yep.
of people
I'll
might say it
plead the
was.
fifth on that one.
Not everybody
Yeah,
can be like
exactly.
our friend Brett and channel his pain into, positive reform, right? Like Brett is a great example of the highest level of human, such a deep, deep, dark pain. He could have easily been justifiably retributional in anything that he did.
Yeah.
I just said, yep, I do it too. As a parent, yep, absolutely, whatever. Nope, he's choosing light and he's choosing to take his emotion and use it to talk about the issue and use it for good and use it to press forward conversations. As freaking hard as that must be. Listen, that man has a tattoo on his back where it went in, right?
Yeah.
Like that is
Exactly.
wild to me. And so we can continue to have this conversation in the spirit of that, even in tragedy, make something better out of the tragedy. Then yeah, we need to be doing that.
Yeah.
I think it's a great spot to kind of end for the night. And as is always the case, who's ever left on the panel at that time gets last words. So, Moth,
Uh, those were my
on the
last
spot.
words. Yeah, I don't really have any. Trans people are people. Let us fucking pee, please.
Aw.
Please let us pee. That's all
Maybe
we
we
want
need
to
a
do.
shirt that says, I just want to pee. I would
I
buy that.
just want to pee.
I am fucking zen. I just
I
want to
am
pee.
fucking zen. I just want to fucking
Okay.
pee.
I've noted the I just want to pee t-shirt. I will work on that tomorrow.
Thank you, Erica. Thank you so much.
You make
It's a
it,
twofer.
I'm buying it right
It's a
away. I
BOGO.
just want to pee.
Hell yeah, it's a BOGO. If you buy that, you get I am fucking zen.
Tell me, send me your size, Moth. It's on me.
Oh, I love us.
Awesome.
Thank you, friend. I appreciate you very much. Really do.
Yeah, of course.
Erica, last words.
I mean, I've said it a million times before. I'm gonna say it again. It irks me no end that what is progressive in the US is just what the rest of the world has. And I will never get over that, and I will never get over Americans talking about how much an ambulance costs. I just will not get over that ever in my life. I will never get over talking to Victoria for Tennessee about how when she was in this country, she came to a hospital to get her child treated because she wouldn't have to pay for it, where in the US she would have glued her child's head up at home with super glue. I will never get over people. Yeah, I will never get over people having to get taxis to the emergency room because the thought of getting an ambulance scares the living bejesus out of them. I can't, and I can't get over that something that I see as a right, and as something that for my whole life I have just taken for granted for so many people in the US is a privilege. And I just can't get over that.
Thank you, Erica. AD.
I gotta say, post-election, I feel like we've all just been kind of sitting here waiting, wondering what to do next, right? It's kind of this calm before the what's the next fight we're going to fight, because I still have fight in me. And by fight, I mean emotional fight. There are things that we can do better in this country, and I'm not, and the people taking away the rights for us to do that are banking on the fact that we're going to get exhausted and get tired and just give up. And this is a topic that I think could be a uniting topic. How we go about it is we just keep talking about it. And so, as always, I am eternally grateful for your emotional labor of continuing this platform. I know it's been a struggle at times. I know, especially right now, given everything, that you've had some moments, and it's been difficult keeping your cup even half full lately, and your battery's even sort of charged. And yet you show up here, you continue to hold this space for all of us, and our team continues to be here to hold this space for all of us. And I am just eternally grateful for this family, this community. And I think we have just more people to reach. We keep the conversation going, so we grow our platform bigger, so that we continue to help people like Steph today understand how this impacts them, and why there is no argument for coming together under universal health care. There is no argument that billionaires the billionaire status is a common enemy. I'm certain that probably they started out being good humans, but the money and power, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And no, we can't have that in our society. And there's more of us than they are, right? We have power if we can manage to come together. And they're banking on the fact that we're going to continue fighting over the distractions. Let's not let them. They think we're dumb enough to keep fighting over distractions and bobbly things. Pretty distractions, as Nicole Wallace on Deadline White House says, like the shiny objects. They have us chasing shiny objects. Yeah. And as long as they can get us chasing shiny objects and tap into our performative, virtuous, whatever rage that we have to have over I don't even know what it is. It's not me to, they,
Yeah.
So I'm appreciative of you holding this space as always, and I'm thankful. And don't ever lose my number in case you need a charge anytime.
Thank you for saying that. George Carlin used to say, and was talking about powdery substances that you put in your nose. If that enhances your personality, what if you're an asshole? And the same thing I think can apply to money. Like, power corrupts, greed corrupts. You get a taste of power, it's hard to let go of it. We've seen the transition of people who, I think about Nancy Mace as a perfect example. Nancy Mace, who when she ran for Congress, when she got elected to Congress, she used to be a 10 toes down supporter of Moth's community. And now look at her. Now look at her using her bullhorn and using the T slur at every chance she gets because she's got a taste for power. And she knows that kind of messaging keeps her in power. She can go back to her base every single time and she can play the clips of the horrible things she says about Moth's community and other communities, and that will get her reelected. So I don't know what's going to happen next. We're going to continue to talk about this, and I really appreciate everybody challenging me on my thought set, because that's how we all grow as a society. It's how we grow as a culture. Not to be afraid to be challenged, not to be afraid to have your opinions thrown in your face, and to question it yourself. If we can't do that, then we're no better than anybody else. I don't know what's going to happen. I hope this is a moment. I just really hope that if on the collective we choose violence and it doesn't work, and that leaves us with nothing else, I really hope people can see that before it's too late. So anyway, thank you all for being here tonight. Everybody, I really appreciate you guys very, very much. Thank you, subscribers. Thank you, gifters. Again, last chance, please follow me on Blue Sky. Please follow me on YouTube. Thank you, Jess. Speaking of people who are part of our community, our friend Jess going through some shit, helping keep the ship flowing as always. I really, really appreciate you helping us get YouTube. Thank you, Benny Boy, for helping us get YouTube up and rolling. Thank you all very, very much. Thank you, mods. Cookie, I'll even thank you. There you go.
We are rating, Polly. Don't forget we're rating.
Go ahead, Moth.
I was just saying, join the Discord because it is super awesome over there. There's so much. You can find a community. You're gonna make friends. Even I have made some friends. So if I can do it,
when I can get my shit together, we're doing a baby shower for Cece in the middle of January after I get back from Jamaica. So yeah, come in the Discord. We're gonna even throw a baby shower for one of our community members because she's amazing and we love her.
That's right. Steve, we are rating our friend. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Moth.
Steve, thank you so much for everything. I've only been a mod of yours for a very short amount of time, but I've been following you for quite a while, and I've always appreciated everything that you do, and I love being on the team, and even now kind of maybe helping out with some of the creative stuff and all that. Like I'm just super overjoyed with all of that, so I thank you endlessly.
We're so glad you found us, Moth.
I love it here.
You're part of our family now. We're kind of like gum on the bottom of your shoe. You're stuck with us once you get there. So it's, by choice or not, you're stuck with us.
Lewis, we're happy.
I have a great day, and I've stepped in worse things.
That's true. Good point. Good point.
That's the last
thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, mods. We're rating our friend Polly Politics. You guys all know Polly. Tell them we said hi. We'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 a.m.